Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of Damien Sneed Dialogues. Tonight is extremely exciting because our topic happens to be Inherent Musical Legacy, the Next Generation. And this is a very exciting episode because we have two of my dearest friends that will be joining me on this platform. I'm extremely excited. I would usually start with the person whose name comes first in alphabetical order, but tonight I think I will instead introduce this person that I've known for a very long time. So I will read her bio, and then I will tell you all about her. American mezzo-soprano Patrice Eaton is a versatile performer in various musical genres and is a frequent performer of premiere works. Miss Eaton's career in opera began as a member of the children's chorus of both the Metropolitan Opera and New York City Opera. As a young artist at the Caramore International Music Festival, in 2010 and 2011, she covered the roles of Hedwig in William Tell and Little Buttercup in Gilbert and Sullivan's HMS Pinafore, and was a featured artist in the Bel Canto at Caramore concert series. She will be making her debut season because of COVID-19. I was wondering if it's still going to happen. A lot of us as artists have had things change for us, so I was trying to reword that. That's why I had a slip of the tongue. The New Works Forum and Lake Friends of Music Summer Music Festival. She will also be presenting a recital based on the poetry of the Harlem Renaissance poets at the Interchurch Center in 2020. Most recently, Patrice has performed with Wynton Marsalis and Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra in the White Light Festival, the We Shall Overcome National Tour with yours truly, Damien Sneed, honoring the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Amal and the Night Visitors with the Harlem Opera Theater, Carmen with Downtown Symphony Orchestra and several recitals. In 2017, Miss Eaton made her Carnegie Hall debut, honoring the late Sylvia Oden-Lee, and we've mentioned Sylvia Oden-Lee on previous episodes, followed by her debut with the National Philharmonic, performing as a soloist with the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra and the Morgan State Choir in Wynton Marsalis's All Rise at the Strathmore in Maryland. And she performed the role of Pythia in the world premiere of Nkiru Okoye's We've Got Our Eye on You with the State University of New York at New Paltz opera program. Miss Eaton's concert engagements have included performing as a soloist on the recording of Wynton Marsalis's Abyssinian Mass from the Jazz at Lincoln Center tour. Also a soloist in Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and Tchaikovsky's Ode to Joy with the Lehigh University Choral Arts, Rossini's Petite Messe Solennelle at the Caramore Festival, and Handel's Messiah with the Abyssinian Church Choir and Orchestra. She has sung at the Edinburgh International Festival, the Athens Epidaurus Festival, and the Vienna Arts Festival. She has performed as Dorabella in Così fan tutte with Opera Ebony, Caroline in the world premiere of Harriet Tubman, When I Have Crossed the Line to Freedom with American Opera Projects, Adalgisa in Norma with Hudson Opera Theater, Giovanna in Anna Bolena with the Musica Bella concert series, Lily, Annie, and Strawberry Woman in a concert version of Porgy and Bess by the Syracuse Opera, directed by Hope Clark, the U.S. premiere of Von Weber's Die Drei Pintos with Bronx Opera, Mrs. Nolan in The Medium with Chelsea Opera, and the roles of Marcelina in La Nozze di Figaro, and Martha Schwerlein in Faust with Amore Opera. Patrice is a graduate of the University of Kentucky. She's a proud member of Sigma Alpha Iota Music Fraternity and a lifetime and national board member of the National Association of Negro Musicians, NAM. And we actually have the national president of NAM watching and viewing on tonight, and she's already said that it's going to be an exciting episode. Can we all please greet my friend Patrice Eaton? Can you say something to us, Patrice?
Hi, how are you all?
So, I'd like to introduce our next guest. And the next guest happens to be another good friend of mine, and that is none other than Justin Austin. Justin Austin has been praised in the Wall Street Journal for his mellifluous baritone and opera news as a gentle actor and elegant musician. The 29-year-old baritone, Justin, has been a principal artist at the Metropolitan Opera to come, Grand Theatre de Geneva, in Germany at the Bayerische Staatsoper, the Lincoln Center Theater, and the Opera Theater of St. Louis, amongst many other opera companies. Originally from Stuttgart, Germany, Justin received his training at the Internationales Musikfestival Heidelberger, the Glimmerglass Festival, Opera Saratoga, Caramore Music Festival, the New York Festival of Song's Emerging Artist Program, and the Manhattan School of Music, holding the Bachelor of Music and Master of Music degrees. As a multifaceted musician, Mr. Austin performs a wide range of repertoire from jazz, R&B, and musical theater to opera and oratorio. Justin has collaborated with multiple groups and artists such as Aretha Franklin, the Boys Choir of Harlem, Mary J. Blige, Elton John, Lauryn Hill, The Roots, 30 Seconds to Mars, John Cale, Ricky Ian Gordon, Damien Sneed, Kanye West, and jazz legends such as Reggie Workman, Hugh Masekela, and Wynton Marsalis in the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. Justin strongly believes in utilizing his artistry to benefit music programs, new music projects, and community services around the world. To do so, he works with organizations such as MEND, which is an acronym for Meeting Emergency Needs with Dignity. The acronym QSAC, Quality Services for the Autism Community, Holt International, and St. Mary's Children's Hospital to construct and perform benefit concerts. The proceeds of these projects supply emergent living essentials to those in need. Inspired by the importance of new music and collaboration, Mr. Austin has also recorded, as Miss Eaton has, on the project with Wynton Marsalis, the Abyssinian Mass, but he's also recorded operatic, song, and oratorio world premieres by other great composers like Roger Holland, Avner Finberg, Jack Perla, Peter Andriacki, Damien Sneed, Odeline de la Martinez, and Ricky Ian Gordon. Austin has won awards from organizations such as the Recording Academy, the NAACP, the George London Foundation, Opera Ebony, the Gerda Lissner Foundation, the Manhattan School of Music, and the National Association of Negro Musicians, NANM. Justin is a proud graduate of the Choir Academy of Harlem, the FAME School, as we call it around the country, LaGuardia School of the Performing Arts, High School, the Heidelberg Lied Academy, and Manhattan School of Music. And he was under the tutelage at Manhattan School of Music and the mentorship of the great singer and director, Catherine Malefitano. So, Justin, can you greet all of us?
Hi, everyone.
So tonight is going to be extremely exciting because we are focusing on this topic, inherent musical legacy, the next generation. So before we get started, I must say that it's truly an honor to have these phenomenal human beings on, these phenomenal artists. I've known Patrice since I came to New York. I remember my first college teaching position at Queensborough Community College, and there was a community choir, and Patrice Eaton, along with other great family members like Lauren Dawson from Washington, D.C., they would be ringers. And if you don't understand what a ringer is someone that you hire to bolster the sound of a choral group. And they were there, and Patrice in particular is like a sister to me. We don't talk that often, but when we do talk, we meet eye to eye. We can look at each other on stage and crack up laughing and just say, you know, without even having a chance or an opportunity to explain what's going on. And on top of that, I must say that Patrice and her mother have really been family to me. When I conducted the Abyssinian Mass years ago, they really took me in as not only as family, but they were there for my very first recording, Introspections Live at Columbia University. And anytime I've ever called on Patrice, she has always been there. There's never been a time that I've called and asked her to do anything that she didn't change something, drop something. And I appreciate that. And as I said last week, I took a long time to read bios for Camille Thurman a while ago, 2 weeks ago, and Wycliffe Gordon. But I want to do the same for my friends because it's good for peers to celebrate each other. And I want to make sure I continue to give people their flowers while they are alive. And publicly, Patrice P. Eaton, I want to thank you. I want to thank your mother because, and I do get emotional because you all really have been family for me. You've always had my back. You've always been in my corner. Working in this industry, as we may discuss tonight, and if not, I can address it now. Everyone is not always for you. And it's good to have people who will be there for you, who will support you and who will speak well of you behind your back when you're not there. And I must say that we've had a lot of fun together traveling all over the world. And I look forward to more traveling. I'm very proud of Patrice. She reminds me a lot of my mentor, Jesse Norman, because Patrice is one who is not afraid to find her own niche or niche, however you want to say it. And she is a champion for works by African-American composers, but she is a knowledgeable encyclopedia about all things music. She can give you a lot of history, and she's a force to be reckoned with. And if you don't know her mother or you don't know Patrice, you definitely need to get to know them. And hopefully tonight that will help you do so. She also, again, happens to be a national board member of the NAM organization, the National Association of Negro Musicians. I'm saying that because one of the things that I've been doing on this platform is propagating and pushing organizations that we can be a part of, that we can support, that are doing great things in the community, in our country, and in the world. And then what can I say about Justin Austin, formerly known as Justin Michael Austin? Our good friend, I see our brother Kenneth Overton, who I will have on, who is one of the people over and founding members of Opera Noir, and Patrice has also been working with them. But what's so interesting is Justin, I found out about Justin from Jarrell Williams, a baritone who's living in Canada and New York and everywhere. And I needed a singer for the Abyssinian Mass, and he told me about Justin. And what's interesting is I met Justin's mother, who is one of the most beautiful individuals that I have ever met. And it's funny, when I met her, she reminded me of Miss Norman. And any of you that knew my godmother and my former mentee, the late, great Jessie Norman, Jessie Norman had a wonderful way with words. She was very verbose. And she would not give accolades unless they were necessary. And I remember actually 2 weeks before Miss Norman passed, we were speaking of Augusta, Georgia. And we were speaking of people that came from Augusta. And I mentioned Altoise Devon, and she lit up like a lamp and said, "Oh, Altoise, don't we all love Altoise?" And Justin, his family, his grandfather was a pastor in Augusta, Georgia. For all of my people from Augusta, Georgia, my homeboys and homegirls that are watching, that's what we say down there. His grandfather was the pastor of the Liberty Baptist Church, which is not too far, just a few footsteps away from the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, where Jessie Norman grew up and where I also grew up and was christened there. My father went there, and then I, of course, also went to Good Shepherd Baptist Church. But his mother is from Augusta, a phenomenal singer. So I'd worked with her at Ephesus, playing a recital for her, and then another recital that was absolutely hilarious because of one of the singers, and we laughed. Never knowing that I would meet her son. I'd heard about Justin. Then I'd had no idea that when I was working at the Choir Academy of Harlem, the Boys Choir of Harlem, Justin was a wee little lad. He was a wee little lad, running around the hallway. And it's so interesting because Justin's father, Michael Austin, is a phenomenal tenor, classical, operatic, and a phenomenal human being. I had a chance to meet him as well. And his mother is a phenomenal soprano. She can sing anything, contralto, soprano, anything. His mother and father were forerunners. That is why I selected these two for this topic, inherent musical legacy. When I went to Houston Grand Opera to be music director of HGOCO and composer in residence, and also assistant cover conductor to Patrick Summers, who was director and music director, I was so moved because in the halls, I saw the name Altuise Devon, and her name is still championed there. She was one of the first people. Louis Odie also talks about her a lot in the Houston Grand Opera studio. And she's a phenomenal person, and Justin is a product of his parents. And it's very interesting that someone like Patrice and Justin, that they're cloaked in humility. Justin, it's so amazing. Justin traveled on the Abyssinian Mass tour, and he's a friend of mine, and he never had a solo until we did it much later. But when we were doing the tour, it never affected his countenance. It never affected his energy, and it never affected our friendship. And that speaks greatly about character. Of course, when we did the Abyssinian Mass in Chautauqua, Justin was a soloist there, but it says a lot about a person. You know, many times, and I'm going to decrease and let them talk, but many times people get upset when they feel like they haven't been showcased. But sometimes it's all about timing. And Justin never said anything to me. I'm just making this public. Justin, I really appreciate your character and your heart. Justin has a phenomenal heart, and he's a phenomenal singer. He asked me to play for his Carnegie Hall debut, and he debuted one of my original works written to set to the lyrics of the poet Langston Hughes, I Dream a World. And he recorded that, and we have other stuff coming forth soon to be. And Patrice and I have stuff coming forth. She works a lot with a lot of major musicians, even the great Kyle Walker, who's here in New York City, phenomenal young African-American pianist on the scene doing great things in classical music and beyond. But Patrice and I have a project that we plan to work on, and we've been talking about it. And I just must say to you all, these are some great people. And because of the inherent musical legacy that's innate, because of their parents, because of their history and their roots and how they are really in this thing, just because they are young in age, they are really old souls. So tonight, get your questions ready and please pull on them, and let's enjoy this conversation. So let's get right into it, because I did a whole lot of introduction, but I just wanted to publicly put it on record how much I appreciate the two of you. I love the two of you, and I value both of you. Okay, so Patrice, we'll start with you.
Okay.
How did you come to be in your present career field?
A roundabout way. I come from a family of musicians, generational, not just my mom, but cousins who have been in the business. And when I went to school, when I went to college, I studied at the Harlem School of the Arts as a teen from about 3 until I graduated from high school. And my plan was not to be in music. And I had been working with Betty Allen at the Harlem School of the Arts. And she told my mother, don't worry, that I would be in music. And I spent a semester, I went to Clark Atlanta University. And about a month after being there, I called my mom and told her I wanted to change my degree from marketing to music. And she didn't speak to me for 3 weeks. And when she called me back, she said, I have a voice teacher for you, and her name is Altuise Devon. So Altuise was actually my first voice teacher in college.
Wow. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
But he's known, I've known him forever.
I knew that you studied with her, but I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So my mom, she just said, you know, Altuise is your teacher. And so Altuise, I have to say this, Altuise was so important for me at that time. Altuise is a very giving person. She was teaching at Morris Brown College. And as many plus size singers know in this business, it can be very difficult. But she taught me how to really dress for auditions. She taught me how to, I've always been a makeup junkie. She taught me how to put on lashes. She taught me how to prepare myself, how to walk in a room, how to wear heels comfortably and not look awkward. So I love Altuise for that. I will always lift her up for that. So, I took a break. Then I transferred to the University of Kentucky. I got my degree in music there. And then I decided that was that for school for me. And I had my first job with, I was recommended for the Bill Barkheimer tour. So my first official job out of college actually was with Bill Barkheimer. And then I've been after Bill, I did a couple of years of that. And then I took 8 years off from singing. I had studied with a teacher who it didn't work well. And then I took a certain amount of time off. And then I got caught in the boom like everybody else did in 2008. And I decided January of that year, I was like, God, if you could get me out of this law firm, I would sing. And October 2008, I got laid off from my job, and I'm grateful for unemployment and voice lessons and a voice switch from soprano to mezzo. And I've been working kind of sort of ever since.
Now, wait, before I shift to Justin, you just laid out a whole lot of stuff. I'm not sure if you all heard that. Do you all see the connections? You all see the connection? Remember last week I was dressed the same way that Dr. Corey Hunter was dressed. And now you see Patrice and I both have on these gold yellow tops. So what's interesting is this. Patrice, your first voice teacher at the Harlem School of the Arts, the great Harlem School of the Arts, where the great Dorothy Maynor sang. Let
me tell you, my mom was the first registrar of HSA.
Wow.
That's how I got there.
This is history. This is why I'm taking the time to comb through this. And then the great Betty Allen was also there, who recorded the current Pulitzer Prize winning composer, African-American composer, Anthony, I just forgot his last, Davis. Anthony Davis's opera, Malcolm X.
Oh, I didn't know she was in that.
She did that one time, yes, with I believe Philip Baskerville.
Okay.
Yes.
But my mom, I have to put this little tidbit in there. I've been blessed, like Justin has, to know people all of my life. Betty Allen, my mom was in Treemonisha with Betty Allen. And so that's how that connection, that's why she knew I'd be in music, because she had known me all of my life.
Amazing. And with Treemonisha, we talked a lot about Carmen Balthrop, also Lorna Myers, chorus for Treemonisha. Kathleen Battle was Carmen Balthrop's understudy. And also the founder of the Boys Choir of Harlem, as we're shifting to Justin, Horace Turnbull.
Walter.
Horace is the brother. Walter Turnbull was also in the chorus for Treemonisha. This is the Gunther Schuller production at Houston Grand Opera and also at Wolf. So you see all the connections. And Patrice, now, one of the things that you spoke about, you went to Clark Atlanta.
Yes.
And then you changed. Okay, do y'all hear that? There's nothing wrong with changing in your career. If something doesn't work or you feel called to go somewhere else or it doesn't feel right, change. She also mentioned in a very graceful and diplomatic way that the voice teacher she was working with wasn't working out. Anytime you're working on the undergraduate level or graduate level, even before that, but especially then, you have to know your instrument, you have to know your body and know your voice. If the teacher's not working, you should change. She was not afraid to change. Then another thing you mentioned, which I really love, is the fact that you said you took 8 years off from singing, even though music for you is inherent. It's an inherited, innate musical legacy, because your mother was also over All City High School for the entire city of New York, the 5 boroughs, right?
Yeah, I think she was the 4th conductor. She came after Anne-Marie Hudley Simmons.
And Anne-Marie Hudley Simmons is here tonight. And Anne-Marie is, watching, right now. So you see all the connections. I'm doing all this for a reason, because you're going to see how powerful the synergy is tonight with these individuals, these artists. And then you said something else. You said that you were working in a different career path or different field. at a law firm, and in 2008, you decided to come back.
No, God decided.
Oh, she did exactly what I wanted her to say.
God decided, because I prayed on it. I can't even begin to tell you how hard I prayed on it for God to provide the opportunity for me to find somebody to work with who would help me fix the errors in my voice, and not to have to go to a 9-to-5 job where I disliked the people who I work with, and I knew the people who I worked with disliked me.
One thing I like about Patrice has a great gift of discernment. It's a spiritual gift. And what I like is that she's an artist. I'm giving the disclaimer because we have people who may be watching who may not be the same way. But she yields her gift to her creator, and her creator in the auspices of God. That's how she yields her gift. And for her, she had to make that decision. Many times, if you look at success stories happen when people have moments where they are totally, it's not always rock bottom, but a place where you really have to center yourself and find out, what are you really called to do? Why are you here on the earth? What are you supposed to be doing? And Patrice, that is powerful. Looking at you, watching how you perform, watching how you interact with people, nobody would know that there was a possibility that you may not have even been in music. And the way that you sang, I want you all to go listen, please, to Wynton Marsalis's Abyssinian Mass. There's several YouTube videos, but listen to the recording. The way you sang that. Then you did a Leontine Price. Yeah. It was so heartfelt. And it goes to show you don't have to have a long 2-hour discourse on stage. You can have a moment, just a moment, and be so impactful. And your moment, and also the great Nicole Elaine Pfeiffer, who's watching, there's certain moments that just people would just go crazy. And I think it's because of this river, now she knows what that means, that's inside of you. And, I want to say this, and I'm going to get to you, Justin, but I remember, wow, I will never forget this. My last Carnegie Hall performance last year for the composition I wrote for Janae Bridges, Will Liverman, the Sphinx Virtuosi, and members of Chorale Le Chateau. Justin, I think, was traveling. I think he couldn't do that performance. And I remember Patrice at that time, and I'm sharing this, and I'm going to do it very nicely, but at that time, your mother wasn't feeling well, and I think she had to be rushed to the hospital. And you left the rehearsal at Carnegie Hall and said, I may not make it to sound check, but I promise I'll be at the performance. And I said, no, you can sit this out. She said, no, I'll be there. And that's a true artist. You actually went to the hospital, stayed with your mother, I think maybe went home, got your clothing, and left the hospital and came, and she was on time for the time we were supposed to be there, the call time, and you performed and went back to take care of your mother, and your mother's doing fine now. But that's true artistry, and that's really true friendship. I appreciate that, and I appreciate all that you stand for. So Justin, with all these connections with Patrice, now I must say to everybody, Justin, please tell them as well what you won from NAMM and why your Carnegie Hall debut. Why, and what you have to name the chapter because they're watching and they want to know. But it just include that, please, because there's so many connections between you and Patrice as well. So go ahead.
First of all, I represent the, B sharp, and Anne Marie actually was the chair before she became the president of that branch, that organization. So basically, I won the national scholarship for opera from the National Association of Negro Musicians, and every year it goes to a different instrument, so I was happy and lucky to be eligible when Voice came around. And it's a really long competition, and you compete against everyone, you know, in your region and in the state, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then you get all the way to the nationals. And that national convention that I was at was life-changing for me. Because the first event for me was the competition. And it started off, you know, with, you know, me winning first place, which was amazing. But the real gems were after, you know, getting to work with George Shirley, and getting to listen into certain, you know, workshops and master classes and such. And it was just like a whole new world of exploration for me, working again with people that look like me. I grew up with, you know, the immense privilege to have, you know, classically trained, you know, phenomenal international artists. You know, I had them raise me, you know, and I'm not even talking about my mom and dad. You know, I'm talking about everyone. You know, they say it takes a village to raise a child, and that, you know, that is so true. And the village that I had was incredible. I mean, and Patrice was a part of that village, and so are you, Damien. And I just feel so honored and privileged. But going back to NAMM, after I won the competition, they presented me in recital, and Patrice's mother actually helped organize that recital, and we put it on, and it was a really good recital. I sang from my heart. Everyone came out to support, and it was a success. And then there were people in NAMM and other audience members that attended the recital that basically were like, you know, this was really good. I mean, this should be on a major stage somewhere, you know. So they, you know, called Carnegie Hall, and they teamed up and were able to, you know, present me in recital again on a bigger and grander stage. Not necessarily as the, you know, a result of winning the competition, but just as them wanting to present an artist that they felt worthy. And I just felt so honored to be that person, you know, because as I said, you know, we had already delivered a, you know, I thought a successful recital. And this was, you know, something that ended up being a defining moment in my career and in my life as an artist, because they gave me the opportunity to choose, you know, my own repertoire and to choose my own accompanist. And, you know, as an opera singer, you know, we're a small cog in the grand wheel of the opera. We, you know, we do our position, and that's it, you know. So in a recital format, when you have more creative liberty and more responsibility to make more decisions, it really shows who you are as an artist, more so, in my opinion, than just like listening to what someone has to say or listening to what someone else is telling you to do. So when it was time to pick an accompanist to play the ridiculously, you know, varied and complicated repertoire that I chose to represent myself, it wasn't an easy decision, but I had narrowed it down to a small list. And Kevin Miller, to this day, is so mad at me because I didn't choose him. Because we go way back, and you know, from working together at the Boys Choir of Harlem on up to collaborating in the professional world at the Glimmer Glass Festival. And he would have been a wonderful choice. You know, it was nothing against him, but it was just my admiration and my, ultimate, disbelief in how amazingly talented and gifted Damien Sneed is. And Damien Sneed is someone that so everyone talks about my mother as this wonderful, being and caring and kind and blah, blah, blah. And that's all true. But she's also extremely critical. And she's the reason I'm extremely critical. She, anytime I would ever, show her an artist that I loved or something, she would always be like, please, have some kind of way to show me why that person was good, but how I should really need to be paying attention to this person. And then it would always blow my mind because I didn't even know people could be that extraordinary. And Damien Sneed was someone that my mother said, listen, you need to make sure that you listen to whoever you have to listen to, work with whoever you have to work with to be able to develop the kind of skills that Damien Sneed has. Damien Sneed was always this thing that was a driving force for me to be excellent. When by the time I, showed promise in my teen years, but it was like enough promise to keep going, but also enough lack, if you will, to make me realize how much work I needed to do. And Damien Sneed was always something. Before I even met him and became friends with him and had the honor of, loving him personally, he was this force that was making me want to be better. So like we talk about all the connections and connectivity and all that kind of stuff. Like it's more than we even know, But I know I'm rambling at this point, but that's sort of the NAM Connect Carnegie Damien connection, to give you a very long-winded answer to that.
I'll have you say one more thing, because I wanted you to just tell us how you got into the industry, like the first thing, how you got into your career. But you brought up something interesting. So many of you have seen Nicole Houston Lane's phenomenal idea of gathering a lot of African-American classical opera singers from around the world to sing. Patrice was a part of that. She's on the end. And Justin Austin was a part of that. And Kevin Miller was the pianist. And I was fortunate enough to conduct that. I knew Kevin when he was at the Choir Academy. He was a senior. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I just dated myself, but okay. But yeah, he was a senior, and I just started working there. My mother wanted me to be a part of the Boys Choir of Harlem. My parents called and spoke with Mr. Turnbull, Walter Turnbull, when I was much younger, and he told my parents that I could move to New York. And a long story short, I was actually coming to New York to look for an apartment in Harlem. Went to Marsalis, found a place that I could stay in for a little while, my mentor, and then I had to look for a new place. I had never been to the east side of Harlem, but the Boys Choir was always something you think about. You would see them on Lincoln Center, Live from Lincoln Center Presents. And I remember I was going into this apartment, and I looked at the apartment, speaking to the husband and his wife and their daughter, and I put my hand on the door to open the door, and I stopped. And I said, excuse me, I know you all may think this is strange, but please don't think I'm strange. I just have a random question which has nothing to do with the home. Could you tell me where the Boys Choir of Harlem is? And they both looked at each other like, who are you? And I said, what happened? And they said, keep your hand on the door and open the door and then look straight ahead. I opened the door and I looked straight ahead, and there was a building. They said, that's the Choir Academy of Harlem. And for you to ask that, and I didn't know that ahead of time, and their door was literally right across the street. I walked in. Was her name Miss Goff, Justin? What was her name? The secretary.
Don't ask me that. I'm horrible at names.
Remember, someone's watching. But I went to the secretary. She said, "What are you doing here? School's over." I said, "I'd like a job." She said, "Who told you to come here?" I said, "Nobody told me to come here. I was just in the neighborhood." "Sure you were. Who told you to come here?" So she called upstairs. She was calling a man, Keith Burton, who happened to be the main accompanist of the traveling group that Kevin Miller was in as a singer. And I went upstairs, and literally when I went upstairs, his office was next to Mr. Turnbull's by the window. He was putting up a notice, like a sheet of paper. He was hanging it up, and it had all this information about, looking for an accompanist that can play classical and jazz and gospel, musical theater. And then he said, "Okay, who are you? Are you the guy that just came in? Like, I just typed this. We just came out of a 2-hour meeting. We didn't tell anybody. So how did you find out about this? Why are you here for the job?" I said, "I didn't know you were there. I just wanted to ask about a job." He said, "Well, I just posted this. So can you play classical?" He made me sight read and play things. He said, "Can you play jazz?" I played jazz. I had to sight read charts and lead sheets. I had to play gospel. He put some stuff in front of me. I played some stuff by ear, wanted me to play it back, and musical theater. He said, "Well, come with me." And we went to the door. He took the sheet of paper off his door and ripped it up and said, "Oh, well, there's no more job position needed. You have the job." And he said it very slowly like that. We walked downstairs, and he told the secretary, "I'd like to introduce you to one of our new accompanists." And that's how I got to work with Kevin Miller and so many great people like Darnell Norman, so many phenomenal singers. But what's interesting is, Justin, I thought about it. And when I was just talking about Patrice and the time her mom got sick, I get very personal about that because I know what it was like having to travel to Georgia once a month from New York or from Spain or from London just to check on my mother and the caretakers. And I remember, and I felt so bad, my first time meeting your father in person. Your father was there, your mother was there. And it's funny because it's actually the same room that I teach in. Well, I was teaching in for the entire school year at Manhattan School of Music for my first year there. It was the exact same room that you and your teacher, Catherine Malafitano, were there with me and your mother and your father. And I remember being there, and I got the text message that my mother was in the ICU and I would have to go home because my mom at that point was, getting closer to transitioning and passing and dying. And I remember I couldn't focus. Even though I'm supposed to. And I still did my best to try to play for your jury. I did my best, but I was not able to play for the recital. And I apologized because as Patrice at that time was able to juggle it because my mom was in Augusta, I couldn't juggle the two of them. And, I agree with you, Patrick McCoy is nothing but God. Tim Sanders, who is the son, so we're talking about inherent musical legacy. Everybody, let me school you. Tim Sanders is the son of the late, great Rosa Croquet, I think was her name, and also Rosa Sanders. Rosa Sanders was Jesse Norman's first music teacher. Okay,
oh, wow.
Voice teacher. And Rosa Sanders was a substitute teacher for me at Davidson Fine Arts School. Let me say something else about her. Her brother, Jerry Harris, was one of the greatest, his uncle, Tim Sanders' uncle, the greatest jazz pianist I've ever heard in Augusta. I grew up listening to him. Tim Sanders is a classmate of my uncle. We call him Uncle B, Willie Joe Hampton. This is my adopted family, my family that raised me. He and B were classmates together, okay? Let me go a step further because this is important. And yes, Mary Morrison, who's watching from WJBF ABC News in Augusta, Georgia. Yes, God was directing my path. I love you too. What's very interesting about Tim Sanders' mother, now this is history, and Patrice will understand this, and Justin will understand this, because when we did my live recording at Yamaha for my classical recording, Classically Harlem, it was Mark Fax who I intentionally chose, and Brandy sang Cassandra's Lullaby from one of his operas. Mark Fax, everybody, Augusta people especially, was over the music department at the Payne College, HBCU, Historically Black College University in Augusta, Georgia. Okay? Mark Fax left Augusta, left Payne College, and went to Howard University and became the chairman of the music department. And that's how Jesse Norman got there, because he contacted Tim Sanders' mother, and they had Jesse Norman go up to DC and do an audition, and that's how she got her scholarship. And then began to study with her teacher, Carolyn. I think it was Carolyn White. So I want to give a shout out to Tim Sanders because he's also inherent musical legacy. And what's so interesting, Justin, and I'm taking the time to share these stories because people don't know these stories. And if we don't get to anything else, it's fine. We will. But I felt so bad, everybody, because I could not be there for such an important landmark event for Justin. And his mom had flown in from Australia. His father had flown in from Germany. And I had a chance to meet his teacher. So I heard what you said about Kevin, but I felt like it was an opportunity for me to make up. And even though it's not something I had to make up, it's not my fault. You know, timing and God's timing is God's timing. But it was an opportunity for us finally to have a chance to do a recital. And I still feel bad about the timing, but God knew best. And God knew that I wouldn't be able to do a recital at Manhattan School of Music, but I would be blessed because of NAMM, the National Association of Negro Musicians. And I'm a member of B Sharp. Yeah. The president is the great Barbara D. Berry, who's also in Chorale Chateau. And these are Chorale Chateau members as well. And many are watching. But Justin, that was awesome because you don't see many times Black singers, Black classical singers, African-American, POC, people of color in classical music that have POC, Black African-American accompanists.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying doing programs of only spirituals.
Yeah, not
programs of arias and
an entire Liederabend. Yeah.
And if you weren't at Justin's recital, we will be recording the entire recital because I know Patrick said, but it was a recital that I will never forget. There's a photo that's going around way before my good friend Anthony McGill did his phenomenal social media initiative. He was here for episode 2 along with the great Harlan Blackwell. Justin backstage said, you know what, let's kneel. And I'm going to kneel at the American flag. And we both sang my arrangement of Oh Freedom. And it was absolutely powerful because so many people did not really know what to do. We both were in tears. It was hard for me to keep playing. And that was after Copernic, had bent the knee. And it's just so powerful. And Kenneth Overton and Justin and also Jarrell Williams and I have a group called Legacy Secured, where we give homage to great people like Paul Robeson and Bobby McFerrin's father, Robert McFerrin. And, Justin is an unusual artist and Patrice is an unusual artist because they know so many things. They know about opera. They know about jazz. They know about gospel. They know, I will never forget on tour when Patrice sang every night. It was just amazing. And we developed this version of Witness, and Brandy Sutton, who did some of the following dates. She did it, but nobody could do it like Patrice. And what was the hymn you sang? Do you remember it? I remember it.
He Looked Beyond My Fault.
The other one, If I Can Help Somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. It was so powerful. It was so powerful. And Justin, now, because I've told so much about you all, but in your point of view, what are 1 to 2 of the defining moments of your life so far or your career? I could list off stuff for both of you. So if you all don't say what I want you to say, I'll say. No, say whatever you want to say. No, they'll say whatever you want to say. So Patrice, 1 to 2 of the defining moments of your life or your career. You have so many, and just like me and just like Justin, you both, we're also grateful that every moment is defining for us. I'm sure every year, but what do you think? 1 or 2 for us?
One, which I don't always discuss that much, is when you read it in my bio that I spent 8 years at the Met in the children's chorus. And when I first joined, Elvira Green's son, he and I were the only 2 Black children in the chorus. And I think one of my favorite memories of being on the stage was being in Hansel and Gretel. And later on, I found out that my voice teacher at the time, when a few years ago, Shirley Love, was actually the mother in the Hansel and Gretel production that I was in. But that's one of my favorite moments as a child. I always have to say that because it's just, I miss, as we're in COVID times, I miss being on the stage. I miss being near the orchestra. I miss the sound of the orchestra. I miss my colleagues. And that was such a wonderful time. Even as children, we had to adhere to the schedule of the adults. So I miss being able to be in the music. That's one. And let's see. Another one was when I was on the concert at Carnegie Hall, and I was on the stage with people who I admire. One of the people who there are two people, well, one person who I really admire who sang with us was Kevin Short. I mean, I totally admire Kevin and his career. And it was just an honor to be able to stand next to him on stage outside of Porgy and Bess and do some singing. So that was a good moment too. Now, what was the moment that you wanted me to talk about?
I wanted you to talk about the moment when you had an opportunity to sing in the previous production of Porgy and Bess.
Oh, yeah, they cut the kids out this time.
Yeah.
That was actually my last opera.
And the people that were in the main roles, or some of the cast members.
Some of the cast: Grace Bumbry, Simon Estes, Roberta Alexander, Myra Merritt, Marvis Martin, Bruce Hubbard, Larry Marshall. Let's see.
You know that.
Oh gosh, there were a lot of people. Karen Williams, Veronica Tyler, Florence Quivar. And interestingly enough, there were people who had, I know so many of these people all of my life who they reminded me of it as I became an adult. I remember when you were a little kid and you used to run across the stage and ha ha ha. I mean, the way we do Justin now. But Everett McCorvey was in it. McCorvey
is the founder of the American Spiritual Ensemble, which
and
you're a founding member of. She's a founding member of the American.
But he was my teacher at the University of Kentucky. And one day in passing, we were talking about something else. And he was like, I was in that production too. And I was like, really? So that was my last opera at the Met. So I'm grateful that I went out on a bang, with so many talented, as we said about this production of Porgy and Bess, there were 90, was it 90, Justin? Black opera singers standing up on the stage in Porgy and Bess. And there were 90 probably of us, plus a children's chorus, and there were about 15 of us in the children's chorus. So all these talented singers, I had never been in a situation where I thought that Black people don't sing classical music. And, being around all of them and all of that great talent. I mean, Greg Baker was in it. Arthur Thompson was in it. Raymond Bazemore was in it. Jonathan McDaniel, Billy Moyes. I mean, just old-timer singers who, people don't discuss. It was a wonderful cast. They were very great people. And at the time, I just have to say this, people don't really discuss it. When we would have Joseph Joubert was our jazz bow. The Dance Theater of Harlem was the Corps de Ballet. It was quite amazing, but they would bring like treats because our houses were really like houses. If you peeked into the houses on stage, it looked like people's homes. So they would have food on stage, and we would all be noshing in the worst points in the opera, and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, we're supposed to be going to Kitty Y," and you'd see food and stuff, and everybody running on stage. It was a wonderful experience.
Wow, you see that is history. Everybody, this is real history. Wow, that is amazing, Patrice. And everybody, I'm sure you've heard of the great Callie Day, Callista. Yes. Mm-hmm. Amazing singer. If you're watching, Callie, I can't wait till we work together. I know we've talked about it back and forth, but I believe she is, along with you, Patrice, happen to be founding members. Is that right? Or are you just a founding member of the ASC?
Me, Andrea Sajola, Pumsale Sajola.
Yes,
let me tell you, when it started, it was just a small group of students, and a couple of people who lived in Lexington, and Raymond Bazemore, Clarissa Buggs, who used to teach at Florida State, and was it me? Angelique Clay, who's now voice teacher on the faculty at the University of Kentucky. There were 12 of us, I think. It wasn't that many of us. And so that we went to Spain for the first time, and it's bloomed from that nucleus to what you see now.
Yes, and if you all don't know, of course, everyone knows of the great Moses Hogan, who's done a lot to forward choral music for the African American diasporic pantheon, so to speak, and definitely spirituals. But if you don't know about the institution, the American Spiritual Ensemble with Everett McCorvey, please look them up. This is another organization founded by a person of color, an African American tenor, impresario, teacher, Everett McCorvey, and they are absolutely phenomenal. So, Justin, can you give us 1 to 2 defining moments of your life or career thus far, or what's to come? You know?
I don't know if I can't say if what's to come will define me.
That's good. See,
but I know that a couple of things that I would consider to be defining moments. Probably my my professional debut as a baritone. I've been performing professionally. It sounds ridiculous.
Day one.
Yeah, so like on record, on my bio and stuff, I say that, you know, I have been performing professionally since I was 4 years old. But like the truth is, the first time I was paid to be on stage, I was actually 3 years old. But is that so ridiculous? I was like, I can't tell people. I was like, 4 is more. But it was really 3. And it literally never stopped. But anyway, by the time my voice changed, I had to figure out what to do. Because I was no longer, you know, a soprano. I was just like this awkward, you know, Kermit the Frog, pretend like you're a tenor. And so that is when I joined the Boys Choir of Harlem, and that was my voice breakout time. So again, extremely privileged, extremely lucky to have that kind of grace period situation to ease that transition. And in the process was able to travel all the world and win a Grammy and do all kinds of amazing stuff, you know? And this was all before 9th grade, which was the school, you know? So it was just like incredible head start, incredible upbringing musically. Emotionally and other stuff, we don't have to get into that. But musically, it was a great, really great thing for me to have the upbringing I did. So going into the Boys Choir of Harlem, sorry, I forgot what I was talking about. What were we talking about?
We're talking about one to two defining moments.
Oh, right. Right. So by the time I was able to figure out my roughly my technique, thank God, you know, for my teacher Catherine Malfitano, then I was able to go out in the world again and try to be a professional singer in this like new baritone way. And thankfully, I got an opportunity to perform the role of Jake in Porgy and Bess in William Barkheimer's production. It was in Leandestheater Linz at the time, which at the time, I don't know now, but at the time it was the newest opera company in the world. So everything was like super high tech and, super fancy. And it was a privilege really to be there, and for that to be my first, thing back into solo singing, because I had been doing lots of choral stuff while figuring out my voice. And making my debut was definitely a special defining moment, because in the cast was Patrice, Eaton, but also singing the role of Lily was my mother, Altoise Devon.
And this was where again?
This was in Austria. My mother was singing the role of Lily, and my father was singing the role of Robbins.
Wait, so Patrice, your mother,
and my father,
and your father.
Yeah.
No. Altoise was Lily.
Yeah. I'm saying Justin's mother.
Yes.
Justin's father, and you were well, Patrice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you all seeing all the connections? Who can put this together?
Wait, I just have to cut you off for a second. My mom just texted me, and she was like, "Don't forget that you sang with the Girls Choir of Harlem."
Right.
When they were Girls Choir of Harlem started in the Dempsey building over on 127th Street before they moved into the Choir Academy building. And my mom she was one of the first directors of the Girls Choir of Harlem in the Dempsey building. And when they moved, Lorna Myers became the director.
Oh my God. Whoa. And everybody, I must let you know, the great Lorna Myers, who was also in Tremonisha. You can see this is history. This is history beyond February and June. Lorna Myers, who was at the Girls Choir of Harlem after Patricia Pates Eaton, who was Patrice's mother. Patricia Pates Eaton and Walter Turnbull, they were all there together in Tremonisha. And Lorna Myers, I remember Kathleen Battle, they all know each other from that whole connection. And now we're finding out this connection. Now, Justin, let's get right back to what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So now your mother and your father were on stage with you. Who gets that opportunity? That is so divine. That is so that never happens. And then Patrice was also there. Keep going. This is crazy.
I mean, that's what's so. And Patrice was actually, I don't know if she knows this, but like she helped me through that process immensely. Just because, just like personal stuff, nerves, all kinds of, whatever stuff. She took every opportunity to support me, to encourage me, and to show me that I wasn't alone. And stuff like that makes all the difference. It makes all the difference, So that experience was definitely a defining moment for me, because it was my first thing as a baritone, and it gave me so much confidence, and I didn't realize how important confidence was for this career until I lost my confidence a couple years ago. And had to work so hard to get it back. But like starting off with that confidence really gave me a big boost that I didn't even realize. And I had that confidence because I was lucky enough for everything to be the way I needed it to be confident. Both my parents, being, historical, opera figures in the Black community, they've always been an inspiration for me, and a driving force, but also they've always had the standard's been so high, I'll never forget, when I got the notification that I got a full scholarship to Manhattan School of Music, I told my mom, and her first response was, "Did you hear from Juilliard?" And I was like, "Did you hear what I just said?" But like, I understand, obviously, I mean, and that was more an example of just like her, because Juilliard is just her school and my dad's school. That's just, they wanted to know about their school, and I get it. But like, it was just everything they did was in their careers was such on a high level, and they might not even realize how high a level it was. It was their level, and so they're expecting me, to be at that level. And I was always like, man, like, I know you, when you were my age, you didn't know what all that stuff meant. I know what that stuff means. So like, I have the pressure of knowing, what all this stuff means. So I always got in my head about things more so than I should have, more than I should have. But anyway, being on that stage with them, and honestly, having a bigger role than both of them.
Right.
Really, like, seriously, like, when it was time for bows and like me being on the front lines and like turning around and seeing my parents wave at me, like it was such an experience and confidence booster of whether I was on their level or not. It was to let me know that I can be on their level. I can do this. This is possible. And for me, it's like I didn't get it until I was literally taking my bow. Like I didn't get that I could actually be on a stage like that. But that was definitely a moment that was special for me. And just to quickly give another moment, so that a couple of years ago, I tell you that I lost my confidence. That's the industry will do that to you. Conservatory will do that to you. Life will do that to you. Being a Black man in America will do that to you.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Being an opera singer, it happens. Being a human. But there is one thing that happened in my career / training that was kind of like a light switch that it changed my mindset, and then all of a sudden everything changed, like for the better. I was in Heidelberg. I had taken some time off Manhattan School of Music to study at the Lied Academy in Heidelberg with Thomas Hampson, and they were able to let me do that because Tom Hampson is on the faculty at Manhattan School, and we were able to work that out without any kind of penalties. And I was there and I studied, and it was a life-changing experience, life-changing. Now, I got to work side by side with some extraordinary young talent that really inspired me. People like, Sean Michael Plum. If you don't know him, whatever, look him up. You'll know him soon. But extraordinary baritone, young guy. There are lots of extraordinary baritones or whatever, but like him being young, it was important to me because it was like, you can learn from anybody. And here's this guy who was literally younger than me, and me having all the experience or whatever that I had. He was out there doing all the things that I wanted to do, and not just doing them, but like rightfully so, had the chops to back it up, and it was such a huge inspiration for me in some aspect. And then having Tom Hampson there to actually work through certain things with me was also a huge added benefit.
Okay, pause. Okay, just to put this out there for all the people watching, I'm getting so many text messages like on the side because people are blown away with all the history. So everybody, Justin did work with Thomas Hampson, and one of the songs that you worked with him on was what? Because my mom. Minstrel Man. Yeah. And then after you worked with him, he loved it so much that he actually recorded the songs.
Yeah. I saw it. He didn't tell me. He didn't say anything. But I saw
it. Is also a champion of the music of African American composers. That's Margaret Bond's setting, correct?
Mhm.
One of my favorite composers. But Justin worked with Thomas Hampson at this same place that he's talking about. I don't want to stop you too much. And then Thomas loved him so much that he recorded him. So you must have done a phenomenal job. Okay, keep going. I had to put that out there.
It was a special experience, like musically, and it shaped me a lot musically, but emotionally, is that time in Heidelberg was extremely emotional for me, and that is what kind of changed my mindset. Towards the end of my study there with Tom Hampson, you know, we all have this exit interview, this meeting with him or whatever, and he tells us all the things that we need to do to get better, and you know, invite us back if he feels like we need another year, or he wants to work with us again, or blah blah blah, whatever the meeting is about. And we sat down for my meeting, and he goes on about how extraordinary he thinks I am, and he said, I'll never forget, he said, Justin, you know, you are one of the most gifted young singers in history. He was like,
You are.
He was like, I've worked with so many young acts. That's what I do for a living. And he was like, you're one of the greatest that I've ever heard in my entire life. And hearing that, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming, and I tell you why it was overwhelming. And I went home. I went home after that, where I went to my host family after that, and I cried for the next 2 days. And so many emotions were going through me. But the one that I want to talk about is how my entire life, and when I say my entire life, I literally mean my entire life. My family and my friends and so many supporters have encouraged me and explained to me my potential, or their opinion of my potential, and all good stuff. I always appreciated it. But like, I don't know if it was insecurity or what it was. I never really believed them. You know, I always thought, oh, they're saying that because they're nice, or they're saying that because, you know, I need encouragement. You know, that's what young singers need, or they're saying that because they want me to be as good as they're talking about, or you know, whatever. I would only listen. I would only believe the criticism. You know, because it was like, you know, whatever. But it was when, for some reason, and my teacher giving me all of this positive feedback, and I'm just like bashing myself, you know. And it wasn't until this, like, you know, distinguished white man told me the same information that I believed it, and felt like, oh wow, well maybe I'm pretty good if he thinks that, you know. And I sat with that, you know, because I'm a thinker and obviously a talker, but I'm a thinker. I sat with that for hours, and it's like, why did it mean something coming from him and not the others? And I really had to dig deep and do some soul searching, and I transformed into a completely different artist, an artist that wasn't so caught up in gratification, what others thought, and what, you know, how others people's opinions would mold me, would shape me, and I would, like, literally, I wasn't free to be myself because I was too busy trying to be the version of me that I thought people would want to appreciate. And it was killing me. It was exhausting me. It was just too much. And I didn't really come to terms with that until, Thomas Hampton didn't do anything wrong. He was just telling me what he thought was the truth. And it was just like, but it was that moment that like changed so much in my mind and in my way of thinking and in my process. And I feel like that was the moment that I became a self-sustaining artist.
This is powerful. You mentioned something that people would never surmise, guess, or think, that artists of your caliber, and I must say again, because I want to say it publicly, nowadays you do not have to work with people who have attitudes and who are nasty and crass and self-centered. And I've worked very closely with Patrice, and I've worked very closely with Justin, and they're literally like family. We're friends as well as working professionally, and I really trust them. And there's so many artists on here from the Metropolitan Opera. I see Christian Mark Gibbs, the great Gerald Cunningham Fleming. Listen, she doesn't know this, but I listened to her setting of it's the song in 5/4 time. I'll think of it later because my brain is just moving so fast. Type it for me, Gerald, if you're still on there. The spiritual that you do in 5/4 time. I'm gonna stand the storm and it won't be long.
Oh,
Storm, it won't be long. That is enough. She's an amazing person. I didn't mean to call people's names while I'm here. The great Kenneth Overton. I've never worked with Lemmy Pulliam, but I listen to him. He's amazing. There's so many singers on here, great singers that are watching and that are typing in. But
you've mentioned Kennedy Overton so many times. I have to say this.
Yes.
Kennedy Overton is my biggest inspiration for becoming an operatic baritone. Just put that out there. I can tell that story another time, but just put that out there.
And that's good. And another thing, I'm glad you reminded me what I was going to say. Another thing about Kenneth Overton, who is the one of the founders of Opera Noir, another institution created by POC, people of color. Him along with y'all help me because my mind, I have so many directions I'm going in. Robert Anthony Mack, the first thing I ever played for, because the great Wayne Sanders from Opera Ebony asked me to accompany him, and I'll type his name up there too. Wayne Sanders from Opera Ebony. These are institutions that are really doing it and have been doing it for a long time. They didn't wait till 2020. They give opportunities to great people. But Kenneth Overton was in the first opera that I ever did in New York with Opera Ebony, and that was Harriet Tubman, and that was along with Wayne Sanders and a lot of great people and great singers, and that's Wayne Sanders Opera Ebony. But Justin, you said something, and I know the singers are watching here. There's so many, and I don't know all of you personally, so if I didn't call your name. And Lemmy Pulliam just said, Justin, your father was the first person he reached out when he booked his first Otello. So, and that here he is, everybody. We have the King said thank you, the Kevin Short. Kevin, we were just speaking of you. Patrice is speaking of you. I am blessed because I had an opportunity to perform as well with Kevin Short, along with Laquita Mitchell in Augusta, Georgia, for the Jesse Norman School of the Arts benefit fundraiser years ago. But what's so interesting, Justin, and I want to just stop here for a minute. I know we have questions, and I know we have things that we're supposed to be talking about that we all agreed to. But this is a great conversation. Not many people, and singers, this is why I called some of your names, they don't realize what it takes to be a creative. They don't realize what it takes to be a savant. They don't know how difficult it is. I'll use the words of Wynton Marsalis, Abyssinian Mass again. It is to bare your soul and testify, to stand on stage and have the confidence to not be concerned about how people think about how you look, what they think about what you're wearing, what they think about how your voice is that day, what they think about anything about what you've done before. And even the great Steve Lawrence, who's a mentor of mine, even as a musician, composer, you're only as good as your last performance, your last iteration. So it's a struggle for us because we're always trying to reach for the next. And, we never really believe what people say, and when they say, oh, it was so good, it makes you somewhat, for me, I'm talking about myself, nervous. Justin, Patrice, you may be there like, oh, I don't want to disappoint the people. I'm not feeling it tonight, or I'm not feeling it this week, or with this composition, because people give you all these accolades. And, I don't like listening to the accolades because They're not good. And Winston told me, never listen to your music critics, never read the critics. Jesse Norman always told me, both of my mentors said, don't listen to them. But Justin, you said something that's so absolutely amazing. You said that you had to really reach down inside to deal with that fact of, you know, why you couldn't accept the accolades. Even Patrice interrupted you and said it. You are a phenomenal artist. Patrice is a phenomenal artist. But what is it that we have to have a certain, whatever your reason was, but some of us have to have certain people. I have to be accepted to the Juilliard School, or I have to go to the Manhattan School of Music, or I have to be asked to be a part of Chorale Chateau by Damien Sneed. If I don't know you and you're not a member of Chorale Chateau, it doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're not going to be a great singer. Well, I wasn't in the Porgy and Bess choral group for this time for the Metropolitan Opera. There may be another Porgy and Bess. There may be something else. It doesn't define you. It doesn't say who you are and who you're going to be. If someone doesn't call you or they don't ask you to sing, just the way Justin was in the entire, let's mention another singer, Brandy Sutton. She's done the Abyssinian Mass 50 million times, every time we've done it just about. And she never had a solo. And she still sang there. And that's why I was in tears when she told me that she was going to be singing at the Metropolitan Opera, because I saw her wait. I sat backstage and saw her wait. Sometimes the audience watching her wait for her turn. Sometimes playing for her and watching her wait for her turn. And then on top of that, I remember when I took Brandy on tour with me. And I took Patrice. And people got mad. They got mad. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't define you. That's right. Afton Battle, another great singer, Patrick McCoy, who's a phenomenal friend, my brother, my big brother. That's right. You create your own platform, and people got mad, but they don't know our history. They don't know our connections. And sometimes it's not even about history or connections. It's not about how good you are, how bad you are. It's just whatever your calling is for that moment. Right. And you cannot allow moments to define you. Even though I asked the question, and you cannot allow accolades from people to define you, because they'll treat you like Baskin Robbins flavor of the month. One day, mint chocolate chip. The next moment, you'll be strawberry. You'll be vanilla. Then they want gluten-free. You know, we have a joke about gluten-free. No, but you cannot let moments define you. You know what I'm saying? I watched Nicole. I was there when Issachar Savage was a freshman at Morgan State, when Richard Smallwood asked me to come and play for him at Morgan State University. I was blown away as a student at Howard University. I was there with Mashika Hunt and all these great singers, and I saw Nicole Pfeiffer there. Nicole didn't have a solo, but I knew there was something special about Nicole. But then it took a moment for the great Wynton Marsalis to write and create the Abyssinian Mass. And Nicole is that mass now. She's the mass. She's the mass. You gotta see it. She's the mass. But you know, all of us that are here, you know, so many people. And Justin, I'm so sorry, because this is going in a different direction, but I can feel it's encouraging somebody. Please be encouraged. We're real people. We go through real emotions. You all may see us on stages, or, you know, even with the We Shall Over, the Lift Every Voice and Sing. People got mad about that, Patrice. They got mad about those of us that were on it. There wasn't enough room for everybody. We can't get upset if we're not on one thing. It's not the who all, be all, end all. You know what I'm saying? And as artists, they have no idea what it takes for us to do what we do. And sometimes they don't know how long you have to be in the waiting room.
Yeah. You
know, now on Zoom, everyone should understand many times there's a waiting room, and you have to wait for your turn to be admitted. Yeah, so whoever's out there, speak on it, Justin. Go ahead. And
I agree with you. At the same time, in my experience, you know, it's limited, but it's somewhat.
Nicole Easton Lane, yes, can't be mad. We love you, Nicole.
There is an element of appreciation that we should all have for being in the waiting room, because that's a blessing. Ooh. That's a blessing, you know. Because the thing about it is, like, and the people that I have seen really appreciate being in the waiting room. Sometimes they were in the waiting room for like a week, and then all of a sudden, boom, they had their shot. You know, and sometimes they have to be in the waiting room for 2 years or whatever the amount of time is. It's like, I feel like a sense of gratitude for that always begets, you know, positivity, you know, going forward, because that's the attitude you have to do what we do anyway.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're all salty and like, I don't want to do it, you're, ungrateful, blah, 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 that shows in your artistry as well. And that might play more of a reason of why, you're not in the waiting room in the first place or getting out of the waiting room.
That is
not always about, it's them. Oh, they're not, hiring us, or they're blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it is. And we have to speak on that too.
Yes,
we do.
You know what I'm saying? But we also have to, take initiative and responsibility for ourselves.
That's so true. I think about it, Patrice, how, when we first met and started working together, it was just from your countenance and from your spirit that I was attracted and pulled to you. Nicole Houston Lane was just on here, and Nicole, thank you. You did a phenomenal thing by pulling all these singers together, and it was great. And it's an idea. I believe it was divinely inspired for what you did, Nicole. But let me tell you all about Nicole Houston Lane. Beautiful soprano. I mean, beautiful inside and out. I had a chance to meet her and her husband when I was there at Houston Grand Opera. But you know what? When I was at Houston Grand Opera going to one of the practice rooms, she came out of the artist. I think she was doing an opera. I forgot the role already because my brain is moving so fast. But she came out of that room and she came and spoke to me and introduced herself and said, Damien, I want to introduce myself to you. My name is Nicole Houston Lane. She didn't tell me she had sung at the Metropolitan Opera. And she just said, I want to introduce you. I'm another person of color here. And anything you need, let me know. And it was so warm and genuine. And who knows if I had been so focused on what I was doing, because I had something to do that day, I was working, or if I had been, like Justin just said, very attitudinal, I could have missed an opportunity to work with great artists like Kevin Short and Lawrence Brownlee and the great George Shirley on this phenomenal video, which is being used by people all over the world. Even the Lincoln Center has featured the video. And it's not about that. All I'm saying is stay in the waiting room. And when you're in the waiting room, make sure that you are happy, that you're ready to go, because they may call on you. And if you're not ready, like just said, some people for a week, some people, it could be your whole life. You may not get called out of the waiting room until you're 80, but you sing or do whatever you have to do or play in that moment. This is so good. Jump in whenever you want to say something.
In the waiting room. Keep working in the waiting room.
And Patrice, as I'm coming to you, I wanted to ask, wow, this is just so, what was it like growing up in a home filled with music? And do you feel that people who grew up with parents or family members who are professional musicians have it easier, still waiting room talk, than others who don't? Or is it even more difficult for those who are the offspring of professional musicians, in your opinion? And speaking of the waiting room, your mother, I will never forget, backstage at Columbia University, your mother pulled me aside before we did the recording. And she told me much of it, that is another woman of God. I'm telling you, I'm trying to look at the comments too. Her mother, Patricia Pates Eaton, is phenomenal because she's also a seer. And she spoke prophetically to me, and she told me, she said, Damien, don't worry about what people are doing or what they're saying. We're here to support you. We love you. She said, your moment is coming. And that is instilled in her daughter. And if you know Mrs. Eaton, as I call her, Patrice is a little Mrs. Eaton. And Patrice, can you talk about that? What was it like growing up? Is it more difficult? Did people look at you different in girls' choir because your mother was one of the directors? Because a lot of these people in the waiting room, see, they're looking at y'all. Now, wait. I can hear them. They're saying, well, I didn't grow up in New York City. I didn't get to go to the girls' choir of Harlem and the boys' choir. And I don't have this rich history. And my mother wasn't over this. You got stuff because your mother was this. And Justin, your father saying this and helped this person and your mother. Tell us, is it easier for you? Or was it more? Tell us.
No, it is not more easier. In some ways, it is easier because they have an understanding of what we're doing, what it takes to do the craft and to do it well. But no, it is not easier. Let me just say that. It is not easier. I mean, Justin, he kind of implied it when he said, I got into MSM and they said, well, what happened to Juilliard? It's difficult. It can be difficult because like for the past, since we've been in quarantine, I haven't really been singing. And so I keep hearing, this is the perfect opportunity to be working on music. You're wasting time. time is not, standing still for you. And it's just actually been in the past couple of weeks that I've really had the desire to really, really, really sing. It is not easy. I stopped playing the piano because my mother was a pianist. I did not like to practice. I didn't like hand exercises. And I knew if my finger slipped a certain way, she would say, well, you need to go back and do that again. I mean, no, it is not easy. When they are in the craft, it is not easy, but I am extremely grateful that my mother understands the work that goes into it. Because I had so many friends in school who really wanted to be a professional musician, but they came from families that said, you need a job. You need a real job. This is not a real job. So, I mean, all the time there's constant encouragement. I mean, like Justin, generational singers in the family, generational musicians. So that's a blessing. It's the real encouragement. So I'm grateful for that, but it is not easy. When you live with a musician, it's not, and one that doesn't think that they're a perfectionist, but they are a perfectionist, it makes it just a hair bit harder when you slip up and not really like gear in like you should.
Yeah, this is awesome. Jarrell is on. I'm not sure. We talked about you a lot, Jarrell, earlier. We have the singer Keenan McCarter on. My brother who teaches at Payne College. We talked about Payne College. John Andrew Felder, who's a great singer, is on as well. But it's interesting. We have Gabrielle Stravelli on. Listen, if you don't know Gabrielle Stravelli, Gabrielle Stravelli, get to know her. That is a singer woman. And that's a friend of mine, another member of Chorale Chateau. But let me tell you something about her. You know what? About Gabrielle Stravelli? She did the Abyssinian Mass every time we do it in the waiting room. Never had a solo, but to me is one of the greatest singers alive in the earth, on top of the ground, everything. It's just so amazing that, we have all these singers who understand, and this is my Sunday school teacher, everybody, from Augusta, Georgia. It does my heart good, you all, because I want to take a time. Marion Brown, her son and my son, Oscar Demetri Brown, we're the same age. But when you can have people like this, she's friends with my mother and friends with my parents. We grew up in the same church. She said a great life lesson for any station in life. Fantastic dialogue. It was her husband in Augusta, Reverend Brown, that gave me my first opportunity performing on television. And it was her husband that came to my home with my former pastor, S.E. May McIntyre in Augusta, Georgia, whose son was the first Black mayor of Augusta. I'm giving you history lessons. It was her husband that said, Mr. and Mrs. Sneed, can Damien come and play the piano at our church for the senior choir? And I started doing that at the age of 6 years old, playing for the senior choir. So that's why I listen to what senior people say. And it's so good to have you on there every week, Marion Brown, and all of you singers. But now, Justin, tell us, because a lot of people, I'm just going to put it out there since we're out here, a lot of people think you have a silver spoon in your mouth because you're the Justin Austin. And, Justin does everything, and Justin does this, and everybody loves Justin, and Manhattan School of Music loves Justin. And, and it's true. Manhattan School of Music does love Justin. And people do think that, Justin, that you are the epitome and the quintessential singer and student and everything. But what was the whole, like, Wunderkind, Wunderkind, maybe I said it incorrectly, sorry. What were you a person who just had a silver spoon in your mouth because your father is Justin's father is Michael Austin? Or is it more difficult because your father is a singer? Oh, wow, Lynette, this is your sister, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, beautiful person. I love his sister and her husband. They're beautiful people. And Justin can sing. And then your mother's Altoise Devon, and Jesse Norman loves your mother and grew up with your mother. And, you just didn't do anything. And you do this and you do that. And you're always smiling. And you have a silver spoon in your mouth, Justin. So that's because your parents are, everybody's saying Justin's the best. Your parents are singers. So tell us, is that true, or was it more difficult?
Well, that's actually, it's a tricky topic to discuss, because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, But I will say that it's a little bit of both. I would say it's a little bit of both. More so the difficult than the easy. I think that having the parents that I had, having the upbringing that I had, I think that allowed me to experience the experiences that I had, as performing at an early age. I think that if my parents or whoever was in charge of me didn't really understand my potential or what that was, they wouldn't allow it in some ways. And my experience is what kind of shaped me and molded me to want to continue the career. And and if it wasn't for them, I don't think that I would have had those experiences, because yes, I was getting hired outside of them, and yes, there were times when they would be asked to come do a job because the company wanted me. And it was great. Oh, it'd be like, oh, we don't have to have babysitters. We can just hire his parents. But that wouldn't have happened if my parents were, lawyers. So I do appreciate my upbringing and my exposure. As far as the career or life being easier as a result of my parents, I wish that was true. Oh man, people would always talk to me about it as if it was true, and I'll always look at them like, oh man, like that would be so great. They're like, oh, I'm sure, like, your parents teach you and give you lessons and give you piano lessons and call the phone and make sure that this agent hears you, blah, blah. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. That sounds like great ideas. You know what? Let me call my parents and tell them to do that, because they did nothing like that. But if anything, my life becoming a singer, the high school years, the college years, the young artist years, all that was severely difficult because I had no support, and so all my friends that were envious of me because I had opera singing parents, when it was time to live in the world, I was envious of their lawyer parents and the fact that they could go home for the Christmas holiday and they could go, have tea with their grandmother, like stuff like that. And it was just so that kind of stuff just wasn't available to me. And that made it very difficult to survive, to live. I financially, I have been responsible for supporting myself since I'm 18 years old, and that, I crashed and burned so many times, because like, who can survive on their own in New York City?
New York City,
in high school, being a gig singer, like who can do that? And I somehow found a way, and it's not somehow, it was through the grace of God and the support of my friends and family that knew that I was in, a compromised home situation, and helped me out when they could. And sometimes it was just, a word of advice, but sometimes it was more than that. And, those are the things that mold a person and that get you, through, and, save your life in ways. So I mean, it's complicated to talk about, because everyone knows about, the starving artist and the hardships and the struggle, and that, that was my reality at the same time where it was both of my parents' reality. So it seems like all glitz and glamour, but like it's tough, and I do this because I love to do it. I feel like it's a calling to some extent, and I feel like I help people with what I do, and I learn from what I do, and I'm able to help others learn from what I do, and that's why I do it, and I encourage, my younger colleagues to, put their nose down and work hard, because it's going to take that more than anything, more than a connection, or more than, an in or a gatekeeper, or, your parents or your coach or your voice teacher or anything. You got to work hard. You got to work hard and really hard. Really. And if you have some kind of advantage, or if you have something that people think is an advantage, you got to work even harder.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, and you can complain, but no one's going to care. So just work hard and do what you got to do. My mother was, she had an extremely successful debut as Orfeo at Opera Theater of St. Louis, in the 80s, I think. Ooh, maybe late 70s or early 80s. And to this day, her photo is still on the wall there, and they talk about her. The audience remembers her. They have magazine articles written about her and such. And I'll never forget when I auditioned for Opera Theater St. Louis. I wanted to tell them who my mother was, because I knew that they would find that interesting, but I didn't, because I knew that would put some weird energy in the air, because I was auditioning for them, so I didn't tell anybody, and I got the job, and it wasn't until like that contract was almost over that I just casually brought it up to Stephen Lord, and he was like, "Wait, what? Eloise is your mother?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Why didn't you say anything?" And I was like, "Well, to be honest with you, the people who, know that about me, they like put that on me, good or bad. They put it on me, and it's something that I have to carry." And it's like, I wanted to be there on my own merit, and I wanted to show them who I was. And I felt like I had done that to some extent, but then when I told them about my mom, that opened up a whole new world of connectivity and discussion that just wouldn't have been there before. So then we got even closer because of that. So like, I can't say that it hasn't done anything, but I also know that it definitely has made it more difficult in ways, but it has also been a beautiful thing as well.
This is so good. I have to say that even in what you're saying, so people who have the silver spoon, so to speak, that people think because their parents are musical, you all still have to go to the waiting room. I'm coming back to that.
Yeah.
Well, you still have to have your own waiting room, because that's the only way you can learn about life.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting, I hope that they're still on, some of the people. There's so many great singers. We have Tim from Atlanta Opera, and my friend Andy Moore Barnett. I I love Andy. She was Strawberry Woman in the recent production. Is that right? Strawberry production of the Metropolitan Opera. There's so many people I see on here, but I want to highlight this person. Everybody, we just had a comment from the great M. Roger Holland. I learned of him when I was working at the Choir Academy, playing for the boys choir. He just wrote a note to you, Justin, while you were talking. You probably didn't see it. Roger is a phenomenal pianist, professor, Manhattan School of Music graduate, go MSM, a composer, an arranger extraordinaire, and a choral conductor. If you do not know who Roger Holland is, please, you need to look him up. He is an amazing musician. But another person that you mentioned, Patrice, and Justin knows this person as well because they are a part of the choral group Chorale Chateau, is the great Lorna Myers. Now, I'll say it again. I just want to put this down for history. Lorna Myers, again, Patrice's mother was the first, Patricia Pates Eaton, one of the first conductors of the Girls Choir of Harlem. Lorna Myers was the former director of the Girls Choir of Harlem, and she was a featured soloist in the recording of Mahler's Symphony No. 8, Symphony of 1,000, with the great Florence Quivar, who Patrice said she happened to be in Porgy and Bess with at the Metropolitan Opera under the baton of James Levine. And also that recording features the BSO, the Tanglewood Chorus, and also the great maestro himself, Seiji Ozawa. So that's just somebody I wanted to mention. Yes, Tim, I agree. Roger Holland is absolutely an amazing person, and so is Patricia Pates Eaton. But also, we have on here my big brother, the great Patrick McCoy, music journalist, choral conductor, organist, vocalist, and professor. And the reason I'm doing this, Patrick, you did one of his rise, shine, give God glory, rise, shine, give God glory, rise, shine, give God glory. And he's changed the words from what we did in Augusta. He said, glory to his name. We said soldiers of the cross at my church. Maybe we didn't know the right words, but Patrick McCoy, I'm saying this, you talked a little while ago, Patrick, about say the name. And, you talked about that. If people won't call your name, you can call your own name. But I'm just taking the time right now to call the name of some of these great people that have gone on. So in calling the names of things, because we're going late tonight, and I just want you to tell me what are one or two of your favorite operas and one or two of your favorite composers. So that's 4 slots for each of you to answer. One to two of your favorite operas and 1 to 2 of your favorite composers. Yes, Patrick McCoy is the truth, and we love him. He's been doing talks like this way before any of us got started doing it. Backstage, putting stuff together, speaking to people, taking photos. That beautiful photo, Patrick, by the way, that you put up of Jessie Norman in the red dress. Her sister and her brother want to know, where is that from? They don't remember the dress, but it was amazing. They want to know where it was. They want to know if there's footage. They've never seen that before, ever. But thank you, Patrick, because you mentioned this, my platform a lot, and other people like Laquita Mitchell and Karen Slack and Lawrence Brownlee. You're always supporting, and it's so good that we don't have to stab each other in the back and that we can all come together. So in that wise, can you all give me 2 composers, 1 to 2 favorite composers, and 1 to 2 favorite operas? Not that you like to sing per se, but just that you love listening to, or the storyline. Whoever wants to go, just go ahead.
3 operas. Can I give 3?
Sure can.
Favorite is La Boheme. I love Nozze di Figaro. I love Mozart. I love Menotti. That's another favorite. And another opera that has been really like rebubbling because thanks to Karen Slack inviting Anthony Davis on Kiki Conversations when she did all of these composers. I love X, The Life and Times of Malcolm X. It's a favorite of mine. I had the opportunity to workshop it as a kid. My mom was in it, so I was in it. So that's some of my favorite music.
Yes, that is the great Anthony Davis, who just received a Pulitzer Prize for his opera, I believe about Central Park 5. Check it out as well. I put up his name last week, and I'll try to put it up again. And you mentioned that was the opera that Nicole Houston was starring in at Houston Grand Opera when I met her, when she introduced herself to me. It was La Boheme there at Houston Grand Opera. And I got to see her final dress rehearsal. So Justin, can you tell us two of your favorite composers, or maybe two of your favorite operas?
So that's tough. I have so many favorites for so many different reasons. But if I had to pick, I think my two favorite composers would be Mozart and Verdi, for sure. I haven't had the pleasure of singing either professionally yet. I got my first Giovanni offer not too long ago, though, so it's coming down the pipe.
Contract in place.
So it's not something that they're not composers that I sing often, but they're definitely composers that I want to sing. And Verdi's, one day. I just think the melodies, you just can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. And also Verdi's my birthday twin. Opera. So my two favorite operas is Don Giovanni and I would have to say Porgy and Bess. It gets a really bad reputation somehow, and I think it's hands down one of my favorite pieces of music ever. And I also think that it exposed me to music, and it was for that to be the thing to expose me to music. It is why I do what I do. You know what I mean? Because it was like okay, not just music, but opera. Okay, not just opera, but like opera influenced by other traditions like jazz and gospel. And it's like, whoa, okay, not just that, but like classically trained, Black musicians being a necessity for it to work. It was for that to be the first thing and then go on to Giovanni and the other things in the operatic canon. That laid down the foundation for me. It wasn't abnormal. It wasn't weird. It was it was what it was. It was normal. Singing, looking at Kevin Short and hearing his incredible high G that no bass should have. But he does. Like it's like that was normal. That wasn't like, oh wow, look at that rare thing. It was like, no, that's what it should be. Why don't the Giovanni sound like that? It was like it was normal. And I that was important for me. It was important for me to see that and be surrounded by that first, and then go on to other things. And then I was able to apply what I learned from my Porgy experience to other things, and was able to enjoy it just as much. And it wasn't any different. And then I hear a lot of my colleagues criticize Porgy, and that, hey, you can criticize anything you want to criticize, but it's like they criticize Porgy in a way that they don't criticize any other opera, and that makes me upset, because it's like you are calling out this particular opera. Like you don't think that's a problem too?
Of course, there's a reason. Patrice, I see Patrice is making the face, y'all. That's the face. Catch it, screenshot it.
And it's like you can have your opinion about whatever you want to have your opinion about, but I've been hearing things like Porgy and Bess should never be performed again and stuff, and I'm like what? Like what? It's just like again. My other favorite opera is Don Giovanni. Do you think Don Giovanni is someone I want to be like? Do you think
It is problematic?
it's a character. You know, it's a show, it's a story, and it teaches you themes. It's not a direct, it's not realism. You know? So I don't know. That rubs me the wrong way. I understand. I completely understand. But I just feel like, you know, I feel amazing when I sing Jake. Amazing. I feel amazing when I sing Jake. Do you know why? Because I never get to be a black man on stage. I never get to be a hardworking, decent, good black man that dies for something he believes in. And it's like, you know, unless I'm playing like a real historical figure like MLK or something like
and that's why we need more black conductors to conduct operas, create, compose operas. Because we need people like you and Kevin Short singing these things. And I totally agree. I just don't think we should wait to pull out certain operas to make money because someone's going down in the hole. But Porgy and Bess is the first opera that I ever watched and heard in its entirety, and it shaped my life. That's why I wanted to do opera when I saw the entire Porgy and Bess.
You know, it's Porgy and Bess. Porgy and Bess is not done around the world because, you know,
they can't pull together 90 black singers to do a production.
It's done around the world because it's a masterpiece. Okay, it's like, let's not forget what it is. It's not the only show that features black people, and not all the characters are black.
No,
just saying. But there are some operas where all the characters are black. But it's like, why doesn't that get? Well, I'm sorry, but spending time in Europe, all my European friends, Porgy and Bess is the only operatic, American operatic masterpiece, and a lot of like people who are not American, in their minds, Porgy and Bess is the only masterpiece that has come from American opera. So like that's why it's so popular, because it's brilliant. It's an extraordinary piece of art, you know? And I feel like if we had, you know, more, you know, pieces like that, you know, then no matter what they were about, they would be performed more. The whole black people in our industry and not being hired or are being hired or whatever, that has nothing to do with Porgy and Bess, in my opinion. That's a bigger issue. That's a bigger issue. You know, what's happening in our industry is a byproduct of what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. This is normal. This happens, you know?
And I know people will hate me for it, but I can sit on my own seat and I can brood on my own seat. And this is not antithetical to you, Justin, but I saw Patrick McCoy's comment saying that he thinks the problem sometimes is the way some productions of Porgy portray black people through the lens of white stereotypes of black people. I read that very fast. But for me, this is what I want to say, and this is on my own seat. And I don't mean to offend anybody. This is my opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion. I've earned my own opinion at this point. Well, Laquita's saying what Patrice said. We were just talking about you, Laquita Mitchell. It's brilliant, but major companies will not hire an all-black creative team. My impetus and thrust as a composer, not the only, but as one of many great composers that are coming up. I'm not saying I'm great, but there are a lot of great people. I could name so many names of composers. I don't have time to do that. That's another conversation. I really want my people to not only be viewed, and there's nothing wrong with history, but in a time of Reconstruction, nothing wrong with Premonition, nothing wrong with Catfish Row. But like Justin said, you said this yourself, Justin. You said with Don Giovanni is not a person you want to be, but you know you love playing Jake. But where are more not just biopic operas and something reactionary to George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, or nothing against Central Park 5. You see, I'm showing all sides of this, but why can't we see black people as doctors and physicians and black people having money? I remember opera company, they may be watching, and toop-de-doo. Oh, well, nobody knows, but I remember a conversation at a table and they said, well, why do you have Black people speaking proper English? And I said, what do you mean? Why do you have Black people speaking proper English? I speak proper English. My family members spoke proper English. And they said, well, that's not really going to pull your people into the opera house. And I said, oh, really? And don't you need a choir? And don't you need a gospel choir? I said, well, gospel is gospel and classical is classical. And the trained voice doesn't necessarily sing classical. I was at another opera table and they told me, well, all Black sopranos and all Black mezzo-sopranos grew up in church singing gospel and singing from their chest. That is not true. That is not true.
No, because I was not allowed to sing in the gospel choir. So no, I sang in the senior choir when I was 13.
That is not true. And then I remember an opera company said, yeah, your people, that's what they said. An opera company, and I've been quiet on a lot of this stuff. I see what Justice said, positivity on Black performers living through traditional stories. I've said as well, why this happens. They said this to me. They said, well, why would a Black person have a garden? Wouldn't they just grow up on the pavement? And I said, that's not everybody's story. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. We had a garden extraordinaire, got many awards. You can't marginalize and throw everyone in the same basket. And I love what you said, Justin, about the beauty of the opera itself and sing it for the music and for the great work that it is from the American musical thread and the American musical masterpiece. I just think and it's not that we negate our past. It's not that we don't look to the effects of minstrelsy. And even Mattia Celeste Washington, who's on here, who was also on the recording with Wynton Marsalis. She also works with people like from Atlanta. His name is Childish Gambino, who had all of these codes and all of these double entendres and things in his video. This is America. I believe that's the name. If I'm incorrect, someone type it, 'cause I'm thinking fast. But we have to realize what our past was. But at the same time, we also have to, wow, the comments are really coming in now. This is a hot topic. They think we all came out of the color purple. I was getting to it, master. Yeah, I told you that. And see, that's a whole nother thing. And I talked about this with Lawrence Brownlee. We had to make a choice how we were going to set spiritual sketches, and when you think about the European school of thought with the way that spirituals are now performed, and so many people clasp their hands, and I hate that, but that's me, and they sing them. That's not the way that slaves sang them in the field, and the Fisk Jubilee singers sang the way they did for a certain reason. There's nothing wrong with the different traditions, but I'm just saying, this is just me personally, it's not an attack on anybody. I would just love to see stories about people that show people of color and other people as well, not having to be in the same roles that we see so many times pushed. You want to say something, Patrice? I see you shaking your head because you've been brooding.
No, I feel the same way too. I mean, I love the music of Porgy and Bess. I can sit and listen to it on repeat all day long. The music is gorgeous, but Black people fall in love. Black people have children that don't die. Black people do great things. I mean, I wish somebody would do an opera about Ida B. Wells. I wish somebody, somebody said it, we are not a monolith. We're not all slaves. We have not all been enslaved. We have such wonderful stories, and unfortunately, they're never told. And that's, and you also, and part of that is, they've said this on many different talks. We don't have Black conductors. We don't have Black directors. We don't have Black administrators who are speaking our stories, who are commissioning our stories. That's part of the problem. If they are not behind the scene speaking about what relates to our community, there's no way somebody can commission somebody to tell the story of a Black person. If you haven't grown up, I mean, today, my mom and I were halfway watching something. She was more so watching it than I was, about the suffrage movement. And Ida B. Wells was so important in the suffrage movement, and we don't discuss her. Somebody needs to write something about her. There's in terms of art songs, there's so many Black poets. I mean, I am such a fan of Langston Hughes, but we don't have, if they're not behind the scenes, we are only going to hear Porgy.
Yeah,
That's just the bottom line. We're only going to hear Porgy. We're only going to see the experience through that lens until, you know, people are behind the scenes working on that.
and like your mother,
Sorry,
New York City opera, and it's not been produced in New York City since. You know, that's another good opera. It sold out New York City Opera, but it hasn't been produced in New York City since then. What were you going to say, Justin?
I just want to. So you're you're referencing Porgy as what?
No, I'm just saying in the future, I would like operas that don't keep Black people in Catfish Row or keep Black people singing Spiritual Eyes Getting to It. Nothing against Porgy, because that's not a line from Porgy, Eyes Getting to It. That's something more I'm thinking about, The Color Purple. I'm just saying in general, because what happens on my side as a composer, as a creator, the people at the table, they want you to recreate Porgy and Bess. And they want you to recreate Black people in the same time period, in the same costumes, and in the same position of being impoverished. Yeah. And so, and then the thing is, for people like you and Patrice and all these other singers that are watching, you all need more things to sing that you can be proud of singing that highlights your culture and highlights your people. But Porgy and Bess is one of my favorite operas. I love it. And it's by George Gershwin. I'm just saying, but that's a whole other conversation. But for people who have been approached by commissioning projects from opera companies and other people, a lot of times they will come and they want you to put the Black people before the Emancipation Proclamation, or it's only a biopic about someone with negativity or shootings or killings, or they want a gospel choir, or they want, you know, people clapping their hands and coming out like it's Pearly, or doing a dance like Real Slow Drag from Treemonisha, because they think that that is what worked before and it will work. Why can't we have operas that are fictional with all Black characters, or the main characters are African American or people of color or Asian or Latino?
That's what I'm thinking about, because it's like I don't understand why, like, when it comes to Black artists, we need something like specifically for us. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. And that's why personally, I feel like that I know I'll get a lot of people upset with me, but I'm not for an opera company having to do a whole season of just Black artists. That's me personally.
Are you talking about just Black artists or just Black music?
No, Black artists only doing every role. Because I saw that somewhere and I said, why would you do that? But that's my opinion. Damien Sneed said it, so they can sign it to my name. You know, because then that sort of, in some cases, may recreate what people are trying to avoid. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I understand, like, wanting more stories that champion the reality of the Black experience versus what people think the Black experience is. Because, like, it can be, I see how it could be harmful, people being misinformed or seeing a show and thinking, oh, that's reality. I understand that. But as far as, like, having things for Black singers to do, it's like, there's plenty to do. Whether the audience or the people hiring want to see a Black person doing it or not, that's a different discussion. But there's plenty of things for us to do, because I love the art form. I love telling stories, and I love delivering, you know, beautiful little nuggets of aha moments without any words at all. You know, moments, you know, special little magical, you know, things that are indescribable. You know, it's like, I feel like that can happen through any story, you know, and I think it's up to the artist to deliver that, you know, and I think what we need to understand is that there are Black people that are artists, that are like artists that will sing Porgy and Bess, and will sing Fire Shut Up in My Bones, and will sing whatever, you know, insert Black opera, and it will be amazing. But it will apply the same concepts to anything else and be
To Ariadne, to Noce di
Yeah.
Figaro, to everything.
anything else. Anything. And I am done talking and using verbiage that describes Ariadna and Don Giovanni as something that is more or better than Porgy and Bess. No, sorry, I will sing everything.
Yes,
including Porgy and Bess.
And you've shown that through your career. And I like what you said, Rusty Tom, a phenomenal tenor, one of the foremost classical operatic superstars out there, that there shouldn't be all black people all season. That's his opinion, and I happen to agree with him. Like there shouldn't be all white people all season. I happen to agree with that, and we see that way too often. And
I don't want to get fired because I'm black. I don't want. I don't. What I want is to not get blackballed because I'm black. You know, I don't want to not get hired because I'm black. Don't hire me because I'm black. Hire me because I can do the job.
And Patrice, I'm glad you pointed it out, Patrice. You said, to make it clear, because I saw comments and I'm posting everyone's comments, you wanted to make it clear. And so I'm reiterating this, and it's recorded and it'll be there. I'm not speaking of black composers or black creators, a season like that. I'm talking about what Rusty Tom said. Thomas. I'm saying I don't see why we'd have all black performers doing all the canon of whatever operas are for that season. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm against what my school, Manhattan School of Music, did an initiative to do. And no, they're not perfect, and no one is perfect, but it's an initiative. But what I'm saying, not to the singers, but to the creators, we have to be bold enough at the table when people are presenting us with commissions so that artists like Justin can sing anything he wants to. Ariadne, Don Giovanni, Porgy and Bess, Jake, whatever. We have to make sure that the canon that we are contributing to is not just a neoclassical or a Renaissance or a reimaging of what already was. And we have to be open, and librettists, to create something that gives a different point of view. And as that's true, Lemmy Pulliam, as Jesse Norman said, pigeonholes are only for pigeons. You can sing anything you want to. I guess I'm speaking more to the composers and the librettists when they're at the table with the companies or the powers thereof, that they don't allow them to force their work to only be a certain thing that, as you just said, Justin, that they believe this is what the box is for a main character of color. So
right.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. We need to blow that up to smithereens. I mean, that needs to get out of here. Because we joke about it, you know, me and Ben Taylor and Will Liverman and Aubrey Alacock and Josh Kanye. Any black man singer, we all joke about how we all get mistaken for each other everywhere we go, you know. But like at a certain time, it's not funny anymore, and we don't all fit in the same box.
Yes, Justin, say that again. We don't fit in the same what? Box. Patrice Eaton will tell you. Now, I did say that Patrice reminds me of some things of Jesse Norman, but it's bad. And I've heard Patrice say it. Just because I'm black doesn't mean that I'm going to sing the same rep as Jesse Norman or the same rep as Leontine Price. And, you know, that happens a lot too, where certain singers, as you just said, Justin, they think everybody's the same. They think everybody does the exact same thing, or everybody, you know, is going to have the same sound. And now, and everybody, let me tell you about Patrice Eaton and Justin Austin. Like Jesse Norman, my godmother, my mentor, I'm seeing firsthand in their careers, they are doing something that a lot of others are doing, and everybody doesn't do it enough. They're being very specific about what they will perform and what they won't perform. Mm-hmm. They don't just accept everything because it is a big stage, or they don't accept everything just because it has a lot of money attached to it. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not offered as much as Justin, so I've made my own thing. I'm being honest, because the critical period of, you know, of when I could have been doing a lot of stuff, I took the time off. I didn't sing. I didn't do all the competitions. I mean, when I left school, it wasn't it just wasn't, I wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? You know, Justin, sometimes you leave school and you might come to school with a lot of ego, a lot of gumption and everything. And you can sometimes leave school and you are not confident in who you are as an artist.
Mm.
And so that was my period. So my period of where I should have been really confident and out there doing what I was doing, I wasn't doing it. So my experiences, from Justin, I've come in kind of like a backdoor way. I do a lot of contemporary music. I don't really do standard repertoire. And I'm grateful for the experiences that I have. And I like to sing music of Black composers. So that's kind of the pot that I'm kind of stirring in at the moment, which Damien. And that's where I am. Justin is singing more stuff, more standard repertoire than I sing. I really don't sing the standard stuff. I make my own pot. That's where I am right now. I make my own pot. So I sing the stuff that I want to sing. And I audition, but that doesn't mean I get the job. And I'm in places where I'm okay with that because I know I have talent too.
No. I mean, yeah, I don't sing a whole bunch of standard stuff, but
no, because you sing a lot of contemporary as well.
Yes, that's a big part of who I am as an artist, and I love. I'm a very creative individual, and I like building things from the ground up, and I love the whole process of doing a new opera, but also love the tradition of standard opera as well. I've been lucky to be able to participate in a lot of different things. But like you were saying, Patrice, we're able to do a lot. Just because we have had the opportunity to do, something doesn't mean that we're unable to do something else.
Right.
And for me, it's like people in the industry, they sort of like found out. Oh, well, I'm still new to the industry, so in ways, there are a lot of people that don't know me yet, or whatever, and that's fine. But the people that have gotten to know me, they found out my ability for standard repertoire, like kind of like by mistake, by accident, because they thought that I like specialized in this like new music, atonal stuff, and I'm like, that's the stuff that I was getting hired for. So I was doing it, and hopefully I was doing it well because it was my job. And then so people just thought, oh, that's what he does, and then singing, standard repertoire, for a concert or for, a recital. Occasionally a company will, present you a recital and stuff. And then they'll be like, wait, you sing normal stuff? It's like, yeah. I do. That's actually what I was trained to do. But yeah.
That's very interesting. Laquita Mitchell just said both of you are versatile. I remember having a conversation with Laquita Mitchell in Augusta. We were preparing some music, and Laquita is another one. She sings the standard arias. We were working on some marks, and she sang that beautifully. And Laquita, you don't know this. I was just listening to the Paul Moravec, I think that's the way you say his name, Sanctuary Road, a new work that you did about the writings of William Grant Still. It's so important. And then, oh my goodness, I just love this woman, Angela Brown. She said, I've always made my own pot, and I have been blessed to do everything I wanted to do, including new operas. Do it all, create it all for yourself. And if blessed for others, I applaud that entrepreneurial spirit that every singer must have. And I agree. It's not just, must have.
Everyone is different. You got to create your own thing. For me, when I came along, when I was grad school and it was time to start doing things or whatever, the the normal path was, young artist program.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal. That's the goal or whatever.
Say that again.
Do a young artist program, whatever. But it's like, the reality of these things is brutal sometimes. And I remember, working so hard, to have a sustainable career based off of, the old school way my parents did it. And then all of a sudden I come along in conservatory and everybody's talking about yaps and how that's the only way or whatever. And thank God I had a support system that showed me otherwise. But I got caught up a little bit, in the whole yap game or whatever. And I realized I didn't realize until I actually was about to do a year-long young artist program what they really were, and I realized, what my life was going to be in the next 2 to 3 years being in a YAP. And I thought to myself, okay, in an ideal world, I can use this time in a better, more effective way, in my opinion. And I could do the intense, detailed work with my teachers and coaches that I need to do. And I can still do, small roles here, small roles there, like you do in the Young Artist Program, but I can do them as a guest and get paid way more. And like create my own Young Artist Program, and that's what I chose to do. Thankfully, I had the support, of an extraordinary manager, an extraordinary teacher, and an incredible support system, and a breadth of experience that gave me the confidence to show up. But it really does take, that initiative to say, I am going to do what's best for me and the right thing for me, because now I look back, oh my gosh, it's scary to think about the artist that I would have become if I would have went into a young artist program out of college and then did that and, sang Barone, and, and then had no job after 2 years, it was just oh my gosh. I'm just so everything is not for everybody. What's for you is for you. And nobody can take that away. Nobody, and it's like the best thing to do is to just work hard and be honest and loving, because that way you'll at least be okay in your mind. And that's the most important thing.
and that's a good transition for the next question. Patrice, Justin just mentioned if he had gone to a YAP. That's right, Adam. Say that, Justin. He would have been different. So I have this question. We have a lot of singers watching. So this next question is, as far as vocal technique, what things are most important to you? The sound, the diction, communicating the overall feeling and intent, etc. What is most important for you? Because as you just said, Justin, and Patrice, as you just said, and yes, Christian, as Justin said, to work hard, be honest, be loving. That's a great quote. You find yourself singing whatever you want to sing, and you all do it well. And Patrice, I've heard you do standard repertoire. And Justin, at your recital, you did everything. And Patrice, you do everything. I've heard you do some gospel stuff. We did a lot of fun stuff on the road. Yeah, it was great because it came from an honest place.
Yes.
Like you said, being honest. But also it's because you have the vocal technique to support whatever you choose to convey with your instrument, your body. So can you all say or tell me what's most important about vocal technique for you? I know my godmother, Miss Norman, her thing was that, of course, technique had to be there, but people had to understand the words. But for you, is it the sound? Is it the...
I hope that people get the message. I hope that there's nothing right. Angela just said it's all of the above. I mean, and most of all, I hope that people are moved when I'm done. I hope that they're touched by something that has been said. I mean, I'm always frustrated when I go to concerts, and because I mean, my mom, hallelujah, thank God for her. I get to tag along to her season subscriptions with her. And sometimes I leave concerts and I hear beautiful music and I hear cookie cutter singing. And I'm not, no, I mean, you're laughing, but I'm being very honest. You know, it's cookie cutter singing. They're singing interesting repertoire, but I'm not moved. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm moved when it's all of the above. You know, the sound has to be beautiful. You have to know what you're talking about. I hope I know what I'm talking about, and I hope that comes across. And, you know, who cares about the technique sometimes, you know, as an audience member? You really want to be taken away. You want to be taken to someplace special when it's all over. I mean, like you talked about us being on the road. There's nothing more special than like listening to Shanae sing Bridge Over Troubled Water. I mean, I can listen to Shanae sing that all the time because it's everything. The sound of her voice is beautiful. There's a message in the song. And when I'm moved. I'm moved. You know, Justin does that when he sings his art songs, his German art songs. I'm moved. The voice is beautiful. The technique is beautiful. He knows what he's talking about. I mean, it's a full thing. I mean, that's like us loving Jesse Norman. When we listen to her sing the 4 last songs, it's all, you know, and that's what makes that makes an artist. That's an artist.
I agree with what you said. I feel if I had to give an answer, I think I could. I think I would say communication would trump everything. Because it's like you need all of the above to support that communication. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but it's just like I have experienced performances. The performances that I've experienced that overwhelm me in a good way are because of the communication. What they do with that story and how they allow me to receive it. Because the thing about it is like sometimes, you know, it would be a great voice. Sometimes it would be, you know, a great acting. Sometimes it'll be interpretation. Sometimes it'll be musicality. Sometimes, but it's all those things are kind of catalysts to the communication. You know what I mean? And it's like I remember in my voice lessons, there's always something that I want to communicate, and we access it through the technique, right? And because you can't just be all passion and all heart, but through your technique, you can show what you want to show. You know, so it all works hand in hand or whatever. But like the goal is that communication, in my opinion. Whether you know, because I mean, come on, Louis Armstrong, one of the most brilliant singers of all time, right? Not because of his beautiful voice. Maybe somebody would say that. Some people would say that, but most people would not say it's because of his beautiful voice. There are other elements that go into singing that allow a person to receive what's important. Now, as far as my own thing that I have to think about technique-wise, just to humor you even more, is to allow things to happen rather than make them happen.
Mm-hmm.
You work, you practice in the practice studio. Okay, and when you're out there, you're no longer in this confined space that you are focused on vocalizing socializing to your whatever. It's beyond that. You were no longer in your head. You have to trust what you have worked on, and think about that communication. You can't be thinking about, oh, this note or no. That's over. So now you gotta trust what you got and think about the task at hand.
That's good.
That for me, that's what I need, because I'm still at the early stages where I can't go on autopilot. I don't know if I'll ever get to a point where I'll be able to, just do it like
That's
second.
We have another founding Chorale de Chateau member. I love what she said, Cassandra James Kellum. Yes, emotional effects communication is key, and the technique and diction support it. If you feel it, you give the audience some permission to feel. And all audiences, I'm saying all, because she said but all audiences do want to feel something.
Yeah.
What's so interesting, that came from Cassandra James Kellum. If you don't know that singer, it's a golden voice.
Yeah.
Woo! Cassandra James Kellum. Every time she sings, you feel it. And Cassandra was on my first recording too, Introspection. I was honored to have great people like her and Lenny Smith and Sinead Campbell and Tiffany Stevenson and the great Joré Nance. Oh, every single time Patrice would sing, I remember it. Some days, on the road, I'd be tired because we had some brutal travel in the winter. But Patrice would open up the show, and every time she would sing, it was like lightning, it was like electricity. Every time she sings, I feel it because it's connected. It's deep. It's deep. And when you talk to her, and as you all are getting to know these artists on a personal level, just from them talking, you see that there's more than just the art of studying the paper and what they learned in the dressing room or the waiting room with their teacher. Justin, for his recital in our rehearsals, we went through every moment, but when I say every moment, for what he was trying to convey. And he would stop, and I would stop and ask him, what do you want to say here? And it wasn't just in the notes, but for him, from my point of view, accompanying him, there was so much intent to every single moment, every shaping of the vowel, suspended animation, and it came across. And I must say, Justin's Carnegie Hall recital, I was so sick and in pain afterwards because it drained all the energy out of me. Now, anybody who knows me, I'm an extremely energetic person, but the task of having to undergird someone who gives so much in every single verse, every single stanza, every single song, every single aria. When I played with Justin and we were trying to be together, Justin, you remember, and your sister will remember afterwards, like, oh, my stomach is hurting because I hadn't really eaten before, but there was so much energy that was given. And that's why, people like Russell Thomas and Angela Brown and so many other great singers on here, when they sing, you feel what they're singing. And people who did not go to a conservatory or have a special, degree or something like that, they can still tell when someone has the it factor, as I call it, and they're able to communicate. And part of the reason that people can communicate, somebody just texted me this. They just said, wow, Damien, you seem a lot more personable with them. It's just that these people that are in the screen, I'm personal with everybody. We've traveled together and I really know them. And speaking of that, because we have Mattia on and Cassandra and Gabrielle and Jarrell and others, I think Sinead Campbell is watching now. So can you tell us what it was like performing, recording, and touring Wynton Marsalis's Abyssinian Mass with the composer? We're just talking about composers. The Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, and my choral group, Chorale de Chateau. Now, Patrice can go all the way back to the first one. So can you all give us some maybe amusing or maybe some, if it's not funny, or maybe life-changing stories? I will still never forget. I don't know, did you all realize that the same church that George Floyd's funeral was at is the same church we sang at Fountain of Praise in Houston, Texas. And that was that moment where that Nicole Elaine Pfeiffer sang that solo. And I remember I was ready to go to the next section, and I'm looking at the score, just checking stuff because it's pretty much memorized. It was memorized, but I'll just check the score, see if there are any little notes or anything that Wynton had told us in rehearsal, the sound check rather. And I looked up and I couldn't see Wynton's head. I'm like, where's Wynton? I was looking for Ali. Everybody, all their heads were down. Marcus Prentitt was crying. I remember Sherman was just sitting there looking like this. I looked at Victor. Victor was wiping tears. Wynton, when he finally looked up, he was crying. I looked over and Lauren Dawson was crying. And that's right, Jarrell. Stop by the hospital. But if you all have never had an opportunity to travel or tour with people like American Spiritual Ensemble, some of these touring Porgy and Bess productions, touring musical theater shows, doing a tour, it is amazing because you really, if you don't know the person, you get to know them. But for me, that changed my life. But I want to know from your point of view, Patrice, because you were there from the beginning, you and your mother, and you are an original Abyssinian Baptist church member, okay? And Justin, you came in for the next leg of it. And I wonder how it was for you, because the thing is, we were with so many amazing singers. I mean, Candace Hoyes, Quinn Brown. I mean, I can just name so many phenomenal singers. Jonathan Kirkland, who went on to do Hamilton. I can't even think of all the people. There's so many people and artists. Lynette Rhett McNeil, who's a gospel artist. There were so many people. We even had a chance to perform with Twinkie Clark. I remember that, Patrice, the great Twinkie Clark, singing behind Wynton Marsalis, and Janae Bridges, who's a member of Chorale Chateau. What was it like for you, though, for the Abyssinian Mass? Patrice, and then we'll go to Justin, because you started off for both legs.
Well, it was for my church's, the 200th anniversary, which is how we initially met, because you were brought in. And then we did it in 2008, and that was the tour. And it was wonderful. I mean, we had our ups and downs, as all tours do. I mean, you have 70 people in a choir. You have Wynton Marsalis, the living composer, who's saying, "Oh God, what are they doing to my music? Oh, this works one night. The next night, he's like, no, change those soloists." And everybody's like, "Wait, what's going on with the microphones?" And then working with the orchestra, working with the orchestra is so special. They are a wonderful group of guys. I mean, they are virtuosi. I mean, they are just and they are the most kindest people that you have ever worked with or met in your life. They're really talented, and they're awesome. It is an awesome experience. So many lives were changed musically in that ensemble when we were done. I mean, people changed career paths. People got gigs. Like you said, Jonathan Kirkland, he went to Hamilton. Josh Dawson was on that, and he did Waitress. And who?
Derek.
Right, Derek Baskin, who is in A2 Pounds of Bag.
And he was and Roscoe as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was a talented group, and every night it was so amazing. Every night how we came to the stage, we could be exhausted after traveling all day, and the sound and the energy of everybody being together, it was exciting. And
the recording, honestly, the recording is second to none. I've never heard a choir recorded like that. Right, it's amazing. But Justin, as you get ready to tell us your field, do you all remember in Houston at Fountain of Praise when Wynton Marsalis, the composer, the leader, the artistic director of Jazz Lincoln Center, came back to the dressing room? Gabrielle Stravelli and I were just talking about this on her platform, and he began to steam robes because the robes for some reason hadn't been steamed.
Was that Fountain of Praise? Yeah, we had gotten to the church late, and all of our robes. I mean, it was a real family situation. I mean, with Porgy and Bess, it was almost like a situation. Justin can vouch for that. It's almost like doing a Porgy and Bess. When you go into Porgy and Bess, it's a family reunion. I mean, you have all these singers together and everybody makes sure that everybody is together. And it was the same thing. Wynton, the band was like, do you have your music? Do you have your robe? Wynton steamed. He's somewhere there's a picture of Wynton steaming our robes before the concert. He was like, this relaxes my nerves, so let me do this.
And I can't wait for what Justin will say. Yeah, Nicole said it was there. But okay, let me tell you all this though. My favorite moment, everybody's gonna laugh. Hopefully Justin won't break composure. My favorite moment was when Mrs. Patricia Pates Eaton talked about bus and truck. And Mattia Celeste Washington's comment was, buttersmut. Do y'all remember that? And then Jordan Dowdy got the Emmy Award. Oh, you remember it. Well, Davis was attending. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was for the hot meal. Make sure you have one hot meal a day.
Yes. Okay.
And I still don't do that on tour, so.
You
can tell everybody who was on the tour because they're laughing in the comment section.
That tour was extremely special for me. So many lessons and so many moments. And obviously, I'd met one of my lifelong friend, Damien, on that tour. But I also had the chance to just be surrounded by so much greatness. And from people that I knew, like Jarrell Williams, who is still one of my favorite singers on the planet. And then people that I didn't know, oh, the merciful blood.
Yes, Lord.
Inside joke.
Sorry, inside jokes. Oh, this is hard. Everyone's gonna hate us. But no, it was between listening to Genre every night and do something special and different every night, to the way Dan Nimmer gave us our starting pitch to Lord's Prayer. Every night it was a different, etude of how he gave us our pitch. It was like, this is insane. I was like, I don't even want to sing the song. I just want to hear you give us our pitch.
Justin, and let's talk about the trombone section playing 16th notes in parallel third. It was just like the stuff that we were. Because my mom was on the tour with us, and she would just love to sit and watch them practice because the way they would all do it in long tones, and then they come back, and then they do it in like quarter notes, and then they come back and do it in eighth notes, and then they come and do it all. It was just like exciting.
And everybody from Augusta, you see, the first singer I ever played for was Stephanie Estep. And her voice teacher was Sandra Walker from the Metropolitan Opera. I think I was in 9th grade and I played, I don't know how, I fumbled through it, Così and La Notte di Figaro all in one day, which was that, I don't even want to, But I played Oh Had I Jubal's Lyre for Stephanie in high school, and she's a member of Chorale Chateau. But Justin, you're right. It was really amazing. Life-changing. And classical singers.
Changing. And Wynton Marsalis, Wynton Marsalis, you have to understand, like, my mother made me read his book, Letters from Tour. And it's about him being on tour. And it's like, I read that book as a kid, and like now here I am on tour with Wynton Marsalis. Like it was wild. And that wasn't the first time we met. We had worked together when I was in the Boys Club Harlem, but like this was different because this was more on like a one-on-one kind of situation. And I'll never forget, there was one thing that happened that just showed me the kind of person and artist that Winton was. And it was like, it made me feel like, all right, I need to get myself together because I want to be like that, you know, where we were in Boston, maybe Yale.
Oh, Yale.
Connecticut.
New Haven, Connecticut.
What were maybe it was New Haven, but we were in some concert hall, and
Woolsey Hall.
Huh?
Woolsey Hall.
It wasn't Woolsey Hall.
So it must.
It wasn't yet.
So that it had to be Boston, the last performance, the final performance.
Maybe. Yeah.
They almost pushed Miss Eaton trying to get their food.
What's the name of that?
Right. That was Symphony Hall.
Symphony Hall, yes, Boston. Symphony Hall, that's it. So we were at Symphony Hall, and I had actually, I was missing school to be on tour.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was taking a jazz literature course at Manhattan School, and when I let them know that I was going on tour with Wynton Marsalis and Jazz Lincoln Orchestra, they were like, "Oh, wow, okay. So that is your final project." Everyone gave me a final project to do while I was on the road, and he was like, "Your final project is to just do that, and then maybe write about it, after you're done." So what I did was I obviously did the tour, and then the last performance, I sat down before the show. I sat down with Winton, and we spoke about our experience of that whole tour, and I recorded it, and that is what I submitted as my final project for my jazz literature course. It was great. It was the easiest A I've ever gotten in my life. But in that recording, oh man, I still have it. It's extremely special. He tells me this story about how there was one time when he was on tour with Sarah Vaughan, and they performed at Symphony Hall.
Wow.
And he said that he'll never forget. He went to wish good luck or whatever to Sarah Vaughan in her dressing room before the show, which was the same dressing room that we were in at that moment, because it was Winton's dressing room, the star dressing room or whatever. And he said, and I sat down right here. I put my head in the door, and then she told me to come in. I sat down right here, and she told me, I think you're special, and I want to play you a song. So she goes over to the piano, Sarah Vaughan, and plays Wynton Marsalis this song, right? Can't remember this song, jazz standard. I'm not a huge jazz head, so I can't remember the exact title. But plays this song for him or whatever. And he said, that moment, I'll never forget that moment, because she obviously didn't need to do that for me, but it was something so special that was so sincere from her heart, and it was a musical moment that I will live with for the rest of my life. And he was like, he told that story, and he was like, I'm trying to remember how the song goes. He's like thinking to himself, I'm trying to remember. And he gets up and he goes to the piano and he plays me the song. Now, I know what he's doing. I see what he's doing. But it still was it still got me right here in my heart. It still got me. And it was just like, sitting here listening to Winton, play and sing the song to me, right after him telling the story of Sarah Vaughan doing the same thing for him.
In the same place.
In the same place, in the same room. It was like that. That's the kind of teaching style he has. And it's like that moment, he knew that moment would inspire me more than like anything else, any kind of like, all right, Justin, I think you should do this, or, you know, Justin, this is what I think about you, or any of that. Like, just having that moment with me, he knew what that would do for me. And it did just that. And I will never forget that moment. And I will never stop trying to reach that Winton level of excellence so that I can inspire others, and so that I can look at a young Patrice or a young Damien or a young Justin and say, hey, come here, let me play you a song.
Wow. You know, I love it, Justin, because you help to transition. You're right, Jarrell. With every question, this is going to be my final question for you all. And then I see Patrick McCoy has a question that was great. I'm going to go back to. You perfectly transitioned the conversation, Justin. Perfect. Please, if you have a question for Patrice or Justin, ask them now, because we don't really get an opportunity to hear from them like this, and we've gone way over.
Yeah, it's been like 3 hours.
I mean, it's almost 3 hours. So this is my question. If you have the opportunity to speak to yourself or with yourself at 18 years old, what things would you say to yourself, Patrice, and then Justin? And then I'm going to go to Patrick's question. Patrick McCoy.
I'd say never lose your confidence. Always believe in yourself. Trust your gut more. Know that what you feel is the correct thing, and just be steady. Be steady.
Justin? What I would tell myself as an 18-year-old? Okay. I'm sorry if that's anybody the wrong way, but I would tell myself to shut up and to listen. Shut up and listen. That's it.
That's good. I wanted to put it up there. That's amazing. Wow. Okay. If you have questions, please type them up. So I'm going back to Patrick McCoy's question. It was very good, and I may have trouble finding it. So Patrick, you can always type it again, because there have been so many comments. Patrick's question was this, and I'll find it. Let me pull this off the screen. Patrick wanted to know, what do you all say to singers? Oh, wow. And we just talked about you, Janae. Love you and very proud of you, everything you're doing. Another Chorale Chateau member, a very good friend of ours, a wonderful person, wonderful singer.
I have a quote right here by Janae. Janae and I were on a three-way phone call, me, Janae, and Jarrell Williams one time.
Yes.
And Janae said something, and I overheard it. She wasn't even really saying it to me, but I overheard it, and I wrote it down on my little noteboard, and it's still here, and I'm probably never going to erase it. It says, "Do right, and maybe you'll be right."
That's good. And maybe you'll be right.
Maybe.
So here's Patrick's question. What do you all think, Patrice and Justin, about the climate in which emerging artists are caught up in the idea of being, quote, a star, end quote? It's quiet inside.
No, that's not good. I didn't realize there was a particular climate of young people being caught up trying to be a star. If there is, stop that. I mean, I feel like, you know, what does Yoda say? There's no such thing as trying.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Trekkie. I don't watch Star Wars. I watch Prosper. No.
I mean, I get the allure of of wanting to be a star, and obviously you see stars and you're inspired by them, like, and you want, inspires you to want to do some of those things too. I get that, but it's like, I think young people need to have their priorities in order. And everyone needs to have their priorities in order, and it's like stardom usually, in my opinion, is a result of a certain amount of work that you've put in place, you know, and it's the work that creates the stardom. You know, it's not like these people were stars from the very beginning, or it's not like they had the one goal to be a star, and that was their goal. It was like they had other goals, and then it resulted in them being, you know, a star. And I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a star, but I think that if you really are serious about it, then you need to figure out why. Why do you want to be? Why do you want to be seen? What does that even mean to be a star? Like, why do you want that? Like, what do you have to say? What are you going to do once you're a star? You know, like, why? Like, really dig deep in yourself, you know? And then, and if, you know, if the reason is, you know, I want to be a star, like, that's not enough. That's not enough. And I beg you to go, give yourself a chance to receive more from our beautiful art than seeking something like that.
Wonderful. Patrice, what do you say to that? Gabrielle Stravelli said that it's not just in classical, it's everywhere.
Wow.
You know, and Barbara Ann Maddox just said the work creates the stardom, you know, and Nicole Heason said stardom is not the goal, it is to express what is in your soul. But what do you say to that, Patrice?
I'm with Justin. It's not about the stardom. I'd rather be a singer that can go on for years and years to come and not be, you know, I don't need my name in lights. I just need to be a wonderful artist. I mean, but there are people who have that strong desire, and that's what they want to be. I'd rather just, yeah. Nicole just said, if it's all you want, the majority of us will be disappointed. I'd rather be a good artist. I'd rather present good work. I don't need stardom. It's just not, that's not who I am. You know, I think young artists need to go practice and refine what they want to do. And the stardom comes to you. If you're singing well, you know, the type of stardom that God has for you, it will happen.
Yes.
Right. And also, like, you know, when I was a young artist at the Glimmerglass Festival, our artist in residence that summer was Eric Owens. And he said something that stuck with me. He said something to all of us. He said that you are always going to be at someone else's horizon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and someone else, you know, you can't when you're at the point, you can't see it. Only other people can see it. You know what I mean? So you can only see the sunrise or the sunset from, you know, a distance, you know, and then when you're there, you're looking away and you know what I'm saying? And so it's like you're always going to feel, he was speaking a chapter from his own book where you're always going to feel like someone else is the guy or the person or whatever. And like, it's unattainable, you know, and because the thing about it is, like, however you feel about that next level, whatever that is, someone else feels that way about you. You are already the horizon for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And it never stops, you know? And so don't get caught up in trying to get to that next level or trying to do the thing or whatever, because that's always going to be there. You're never going to get to a point where you have conquered everything, you know? So stop trying, you know, and work on what's important, you know? And it's like, you know, I definitely butchered his message, but it was something that really spoke to me, and it spoke to a lot of, you know, my colleagues, and a lot of my colleagues from that summer. We got really close, and we speak to each other even, you know, till today. And it, I think that being confident in what you have, going back to what we were saying earlier in our conversation, what you have to give, you know, what's for you and what you have to offer in your journey, in your path. Focus on that. Focus on that. You can look at others, you know, but you're going to risk distracting yourself and getting off of your track. Okay.
Now we have a very interesting question. Michael Henry Adams says, Ella Shepherd Moore, Marian Anderson, Jules Bledsoe, you all are a continuation of a grand tradition in a world where serious music seems imperiled. Will you all be able to sustain this legacy? I'd like to say, I know that you all are already sustaining the legacy, the inherent musical legacy as the next generation, because as you all have recounted and called out so many people and connections, being able to recognize them as you're moving forward. Justin, Patrice, you all are moving forward with humility and being grateful and understanding the great calling and the great responsibility you have because of the giftings that you have to always make sure that you connect with the audience and that you're also serving the composer by giving what the composer wanted in the best way possible. But I also believe, I know it's true that the next generations are looking up to you because I've seen you all also take the time to speak with people after the show, after the concert, and you're very approachable. Everyone is not necessarily approachable, but I will let you all answer that yourself. We have Simone Paulwell on. Wow, the great gospel singer Nancy Jackson Johnson. If you haven't heard her sing and her album Free, I think it was the 19th or 20th anniversary that just came out. One of the greatest singers ever. But yeah, if you all want to speak to that, whether you all feel like you all can. Yes, Janae, I honestly believe you can hear someone strives for stardom and actually dims their sound, artistry, and light. Very good. Compare and despair. The comments are just great. You all, thank you. You know what makes this platform are all of you that are watching and contributing and staying with us on this midnight train to Georgia. You know, this is late, but what do you say to that? I mean, I spoke for you all as far as what I feel. Yes, that's right. Long answer, Jarrell. Yes, I agree. And short answer, yes, that they are trailblazers. You're welcome, Patrick, for the conversation. But yeah, tell me.
Yes, that's the answer. Yes. I think that you, Damien, Patrice, and I have all made it a point to have our careers deliberately in service to, you know, and I know that, you know, I have chosen to stay in the United States of America and pursue this. I know that I could go to my birthplace.
That's a powerful statement.
And have a much more comfortable life.
A major career,
and you know, do my thing and stay over there like other people I know. But I think that the United States of America needs us. They need us because I think that we are how our art form is going to survive. Okay? And I truly believe that. And I think it's a responsibility, and I love it so much. And I am willing to do whatever I can to make sure that it stays in place. The culture of opera in the U.S. barely exists anyway. Okay, barely. We have what, one repertory company in the country, one. And
Justin, that's powerful, Justin. What you just said, that you're making a conscious, intentional choice to stay here in this country because you were born in Stuttgart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is, and I'm making it a point to, sing recitals and to do concerts and to do standard opera and new opera, and make sure that my face is not abnormal. That's not abnormal. That is the most normal thing in the world. I grew up thinking that, and everyone needs to grow up thinking that.
Right.
That seeing us on stage is normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's normal, and being educated is normal. And speaking, I don't know, with correct grammar. I don't speak with correct grammar really, but but it's like that should be normal. Opera should not be white. Education should not be white. Being eloquent, being articulate should not be white.
Yes.
Okay? These are normal things. Okay? These are normal things that people do. Okay?
Wow.
So
that's
how I feel.
You see, Nicole Heaston just said Justin is giving sermons. I just got a text message, Justin, from a future student at Manhattan School of Music, who just said, we know a Baptist preacher when we hear one. It's probably in his roots and in his cultural inherent preaching legacy as well. That's right. Throw a shoe at him, articulate. Yeah, Rusty Russell. Yeah, I'm from the hood.
That's normal.
This is really powerful. Wow, that really resonates with me though, Justin, what you said. You're here and you're making a conscious effort so that you can be present and that your voice can be seen and heard for the next generation.
Right. It's for me. I just feel like it's a duty. Unfortunately, it's necessary. But I truly believe that I have to. It's a part of who I am. My parents, paved the way for the next generation. And you just have to continue to pass on the torch, to hold the torch, to work out so you can hold the torch, and then be able to pass the torch on. Because I have family members, okay, not just like friends, but I have family members that were opera singers that went off to Europe and had great careers and that was it. And they didn't help anybody. They had their own great selfish career and that was it. And that's cool in some ways, but I just feel like there is so much more I can do for others with my artistry, and I want to do that. I want to continue to do that. And I want to show young people that they can be an inspiration without being rich and famous.
Yes.
Wow. Dana Fripp, you're right. Why does this always happen on here after 11 p.m.? For the people that stay late, it really gets good. Right, Jarrell? It's like the late version of WBLS Quiet Storm, all the goodies. Patrice, can we talk about 3-on-3? And you tell us who 3-on-3 is, what it does, because that's another initiative that you have to answer that question that you're giving back.
3-on-3 is now 3-on-3 music. And because we became LLC this past year, 11 years, my mother started it as a platform for artists to have a place to perform. That's what it was really created for. You know, there was a time when churches used to have teas and they presented artists in concert, young artists, and it was the, you know, places. The Black church was the place for us. We did our concerts there. We lifted up our artists there, and all of that. Young artists don't have a place to perform. I mean, even if you're not, if you need a place to test out repertoire, those places don't exist anymore. So that's how 3 on 3 got started. We've been lucky. Justin has sung on it. Brandy, Brittany, Robinson, Jarrell has sung on it. We've had a lot of young artists. We've had some old artists to fill in the gaps, but that's our purpose. We've done jazz. We've started a spiritual festival in February, the month of February. We've joined with other Black organizations in the city of New York, and February is really dedicated to Black music. We've done Akua Dixon, the cellist. She wrote an opera on Marie Laveau. We did that. We've done most of Nkiru Okoye's Harriet Tubman, which I had the honor of being in. And so I'm blessed to be able to call Nkiru up, and I was able to get her to do that. What else have we done? We've done things, works from Treemanisha. We've done all, you know, we've done everything, but the sole purpose of 3 on 3 was to give a platform for young artists to come and perform. I mean, come and test out your repertoire. Do you need, I mean, right before audition season begins, we had in the past, it was like Patrice, Eaton and friends, and I invited people to come in and test their arias. You know, we need a platform, a place to test out repertoire. People put together art song concerts, and thank you, Jarrell. That was our purpose. Our purpose was to create a safe place. People have gotten jobs out of working on 3 on 3, so we're grateful for that too. So that was its sole purpose, and hopefully in the fall we can, you know, God, this COVID, y'all put your mask on. Tell your friends to put your mask on, because I miss performing and I miss being around performers, and hopefully we can start again in January. We had planned to do a Nina Simone show. Oh gosh, I can't think of Ramona's last name right now. Yes, Ramona was going to come and do her Nina Simone show. So, you know, I'm grateful for it. It's a mentorship program. It was started by my mom. It was her thing after retirement. And so as the time has gone on, I've just merged in and helped to get it over. So we're grateful.
That's the epitome of the quintessential example of inherent musical legacy, the next generation continuing on and doing it on a very high level. And yes, as you say, Patrick, in a loving environment before going to the wolves. And the person that asked the question responded back. I wanted you to all see it. He said, "You all prove that being present, being beautiful, elegant, and accomplished and Black is normal, and it's wonderful." Yes. So before we sign off, before Justin and Patrice sign off, I want to do this, what I do every week. So I want to announce who's coming on next. And I'm very excited about it because the next artist for next week, and the topic is this: global change agents in arts and entertainment. Carla Scott, singer, songwriter, conductor, and educator, author. She has a phenomenal book. She traveled with Jazz at Lincoln Center, going ahead of us for the Abyssinian Mass Tour, educating choirs and universities and colleges around the country. She's been the choral director for the Naval Academy Choir after the great Joyce Garrett from the Church of Theodore Thorpe, also
Alfred Street.
Alfred Street Baptist Church. She's a great singer-songwriter. I've been able to work closely with her, and she's the protege of Carmen Balthrop. She has her doctorate, her DMA from the University of Maryland at College Park. She's my sister. I love her dearly, Carla Scott, and then the great, phenomenal, another mentor of mine, John Stoddard. If you don't know John Stoddard, I remember my first time when Lloyd Mallory, Dr. Lloyd Mallory, Mal, as they call him, when he asked me to travel and perform with a small tour with the Oakwood College Aeolians. If you don't know about Oakwood College, it's a Seventh-day Adventist university where Brian McKnight went to school, Virtue, Take Six, so many great people. And John Stoddard, he was playing organ, pipe organ, for the Mac Wilberg arrangement of Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. And I was amazed by him. He's played with Spiral Gyra. He's worked with Quincy Jones. He's worked with Kirk Whalum. And he is a singer, songwriter, composer, educator. He has a lot of classical works that are out there as well. And he's a producer. And I'm excited about episode 9. As they say, same bat time, same bat channel. That will be next week, Tuesday, July 21st, 2020 at 8 p.m. I hope you all come back. I hope you share it. Thank you all so much for attending. And that, yes, interesting you say that, Russell Thomas. I was thinking about stopping these conversations last week and making this one with Patrice and Justin the last one. But I'm going to continue on because I get messages and emails and text messages, as do so many of the guests that I have on from people around the world who say they're touched and encouraged and inspired. I cannot begin to thank you, Patrice and Justin, for your time. You all are worth thousands of dollars for your time. We went way over from what we said we were going to do. I asked them about their Cash App because I've been doing that recently. But if you want to find their Cash App, you can do that. Or if you want to send something to the Damien Sneed Foundation, and I will make sure they get it. And if you just send something, I'll divide it evenly. We definitely have the honor system. I really appreciate these people because they're really just great human beings. So please make sure that you follow them. You get a chance to go see them whenever they are going to be performing. Hopefully, as you said, in January, we'll be able to get back on the road. Is there anything coming up that you can announce, Patrice or Justin? It may not happen, but I'll say Justin, my friend, was featured in the New York Times because he was working on a project by the great, I love this composer, Ricky Ian Gordon. And Lynn Nottage's, is it her remaking or the recreation of her Broadway theater show? Am I saying correctly? That
So
then tell us.
Metropolitan Opera and Lincoln Center Theater have a joint program that commissions new pieces, and not all of them get a performance life, but all of them that have received a performance life, they've all been fully produced by the Metropolitan Opera, and Lincoln Center finally got an opportunity to take one of the operas that the Met and them commissioned and produce it themselves. And Bartlett Sher, who's the director, but also the artistic director of Lincoln Center Theater, he thinks that this piece is perfect for the Mitzi Newhouse space, and made sure that it didn't get moved to the big, huge stage of the Big House, or even the Beaumont, which is upstairs from the Mitzi Newhouse, because he had a specific vision that none of us really knew, but believed him and believed in him. And then once we started previews, that was the first time we saw really what he was talking about, and it's going to change the game if we ever get back to Lincoln Center. But yeah, that's supposed to be in the spring. We don't know when, but it's still in the air. And I'm starring in that. After that, I'm supposed also scheduled still on the dock. We don't know yet. if it's going to be canceled. But I'm also featured in Dead Man Walking at the Metropolitan Opera, the new production with Yannick. So I hope that goes well. That first performance, April 8th, scheduled, we'll know, but I'm doing all those performances. So you come to any show, you'll catch me. After that is I'm also featured in Billy Budd at the Metropolitan Opera. That's the classic John Cheek production, you know, and I'm really excited to be working with James Morris again. We worked together at OTSL, but he's like one of the most famous Claggarts of all time. He's not Claggart, but he's in the show. So I'm just happy to say that I get to do Billy Budd with him, which is amazing. But yeah, it's a really phenomenal productions. Casts come out and support all at Lincoln Center. Hopefully, you know, we get to do them. No one's sure what's going to happen. But yeah, in the meantime, I'm a featured artist next month at the Moab Music Festival. Doing social distance concerts. I'm part of New York Festival of Songs virtual season. There's a new movie operetta kind of thing happening. I can't really talk about, but I've been starring in that, and so I can say more on that soon. But that's coming out in the fall. So hopefully there'll be some things to hold you over until you can see stuff at Lincoln Center.
So for the people that are still watching and those who will watch it on demand, Patrice Eaton, I'm saying her name. What 3 on 3 does, it helps young artists. It gives them footing, it gives them foundation, and it gives them community. They want to know if they can watch your pay-per-view concerts. And just like we were saying the name of Dorothy Maynor and Betty Allen from the Harlem School of the Arts, I believe 3 on 3 will go on to be something of that caliber, because Patrice's mother has been steeped in education and giving to young people her entire life. And for you to see a mother and daughter work together, it's impressive. Justin Michael, that's his full name, but Justin Austin. Justin is about to possibly, we're keeping our fingers crossed, have 3 roles in his debut season at the Metropolitan Opera. That is major. Maybe it's not unheard of, but that's major. Okay. And I'm proud of both of you. I'm proud of what you're doing. And so I have to do what the people are saying. They want to know, what are they? No excuses.
I covered this season.
No,
it's not my first time there. It's not that special.
It is special. And that's why Patrick McCoy said, say your cash apps. And that's why Tiffany Renee Jackson, who said, share your cash apps. And if you don't have a cash app, then that's right, John Banks, 3 on 3 does it. Yeah, it is a ministry. Say the name. That's right, Lemmy and Simone. They're doing it and on a high level. So if you don't have a cash app, do you have a Venmo? Do you have a Zelle? Do you have a PayPal? Do you have something?
I have Venmo. Are you ready for the Venmo? Can I put it in the chat? Let me put it.
Yeah, I'm gonna type it up, Justin. Tell me.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So it's Justin dash Austin dash 7.
That's 7. The number 7.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. At least.
That's for your
sign. I'm an old man at home. So the sign, and then Justin dash Austin dash 7.
Got it. So this is it. So Patrice, Patrice, do you have anything?
I have Venmo, but I don't know what it is. Hold on. You're making me look at something I'm not accustomed to. Oh, it's at Patrice.
Hold on. 1 second. Okay, at
Patrice dash Eaton. That's it. That's all it says.
Okay, I'm gonna put some space between it. So Venmo is something you can give. If you don't have it, it's easy to set up. So there's Justin Austin's. Oops, I added a period, Justin. Let me take that off. Okay.
You can tell I don't use it much.
Here we go. There goes their Venmo addresses. Justin-Austin-7, and Patrice hers is Patrice-Eaton. Thank you all again so much. You're right, Patrick. It gives the opportunity for emerging artists the opportunity to prepare beyond the music, writing bios, PR. This has just been awesome. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for watching. If you all want to follow the artists, please do so. They're on social media. They both are on Facebook. You can definitely, if you want a good laugh, follow what Patrice Eaton says every morning. She's going to get somebody together and tell them. And I love it.
I'm trying not to be angry.
Yes. And they're on Instagram as well. Justin is on Instagram. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for watching and viewing. While we're at 3 hours and 25 minutes. And thank you, Justin. I think you saw your teacher, Catherine Malfitano, was on. Yes, Bison, HU, Howard University. Thank you so much, Cassandra. Thank you all, everybody. And everybody watching, just stay encouraged. This is a difficult time for performers, creatives. We don't know what's coming and what's not coming. But I believe that there will be days ahead where we'll be able to still make beautiful music and touch people with the gifts that God has given us. Thank you. All right, Justin and Patrice, stay on for a second. I'm going to end the broadcast. Thank you all.